Peter Gray.
Nicola Barrow.
I have a mission.
And I will choose to accept it.
Well.
Oh, actually,
you stole the words right out of my
But
mouth.
then I was like, it depends what you're going to ask me to do.
The mission is pretty intense.
I like it.
You and I are going to scale the mountain that is 7 Mission Impossible films. 7 TC vehicles. TC in this case, not Tropical Cyclone.
No. Tom Cruise.
Of which, can you hold your... Was it your left or your right hand?
Oh,
Hold the
it
hand
was my right hand.
He hasn't washed this hand since the day
in 2 years.
he high-fived Tom Cruise on the red carpet of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
That was...
What a day.
Like...
Does that seem real?
It doesn't. It honestly doesn't.
Seem real.
Like, getting the approval where it was like, okay, you're going to be speaking to Christopher McQuarrie.
Awesome.
Haley Atwell.
Awesome.
Simon Pegg.
Awesome.
Pom Clementif.
So good.
Like, that was already, I was like, okay.
That's the jackpot.
Cool.
That's the jackpot.
Like, I was not expecting to get a Tom Cruise interview.
That's a big bowl of ice cream.
That's great. And also, they're all incredible.
I
felt like Haley Atwell.
We love Haley.
Like, just the best.
What an addition to the franchise. That will come.
So then, being on the red carpet and standing in the line, and they were like, get there. You need to now get to your position an hour early because Tom Cruise will be there and he will be, he literally greets everybody.
Person, yeah.
So we had fans, media, TikTokers.
Well, we can talk about that. We'll talk about that in the second part of this
second part.
franchise because that immediately correlates to the final film.
But yes, Tom Cruise said hello, took photos with every single fan.
He's a weapon.
And then I was sort of at the end of the press line, which also made me a little bit nervous.
Right.
Because I was like, because, I'm in the grand scheme of things, like I'm independent media.
That's
like I'm not, I'm not a Channel 9, I'm not a Channel 7, blah, blah, blah.
Not mainstream media.
And it started to rain, and I was like, don't you do it. And Tom Cruise was getting closer and closer. And I did say to them, I was like, look, it's literally, I'm happy with one question. I was like, I just need to be in front of Tom Cruise.
I need to see TC in front of me and maybe touch his hand.
And I was like, I also just need to thank him.
Well, yes, very much so.
So then he came, and at this point, every media had taken a photo with him, and asking photos is not something I do.
It's not a big thing on the carpet.
No.
It's because of the speed that they do move,
and it is also deemed like
there's an etiquette.
Yeah,
thing
like
as well,
a lot
I
of
guess.
people, like the press handlers will say, do not ask for selfies, do not ask for a photo.
Yeah.
You are here to interview them. And I'm like, of course, I never do.
Yeah, 100%.
I've been on carpets where I've seen other journalists do it and you can just see them get clocked. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. But Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise,
The
who
movie
is
star.
and is like just happy to, and everybody had asked it. And I was like, this feels like a missed opportunity if I don't.
It's time to get your slice of the TC cake.
So he came up to me, and naturally I was like, Mr. Cruise, and shook his hand. And then at this point I was like, I've shaken Tom Cruise's hand.
Yeah.
That is more than enough.
And they're like, time's up. And you're like, sure,
I'm
whatever.
fine.
It's TC.
And I can't even remember what I asked him. The interview was on the AU review, but
Yes. Yeah. You can go check.
I don't remember what I asked him, but I do remember saying I was like so thankful that he barracked for Top Gun Maverick to be in cinemas.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's such a vocal person for the cinema experience and for like the physical side of things, like owning films.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And I told him that, and I was just like, I'm so thankful that you push for the cinema and that like we can own these movies and it's incredible. And without even really thinking or like having it planned in any way, my hand sort of was like gesturing And Tom Cruise was standing there nodding and smiling, and he put his hand up, and I was like, this seems like a high five moment.
Yeah.
And
He's either going to slap me or it's a high five.
And we high fived, but like did the high five where you then kind of like
you grab
grip the hand.
You grab it. Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
then just continued on like it was the most natural thing in the world. And
he's smiling away.
He's smiling
I've seen
away.
the photo. I've seen the video.
And he then, the interview was getting wrapped up, and I then, because I had interviewed Christopher McQuarrie prior, he then said, oh, watch a particular scene again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, great. So I said to Tom Cruise, oh, Chris told me that I have to watch this particular scene from a different viewpoint.
Mm.
And that then brought Tom Cruise onto like this whole other thing. So he was talking, and I was like, hey, I've wrapped up.
I was rapping.
And Tom Cruise was just happy to chat.
I love it.
And you hear so much about, he's the kind of guy that like, he makes everybody feel like they're the only person in the room.
Yeah,
it's
right.
legitimately true. There was no one else behind me at that point.
No,
it was just me and Tom. He is genuinely like there's a reason why he's like a movie star.
100%.
Like he's
totally.
he's charm personified. He's just
charisma, charm, talent,
yes,
dedication, passion.
Scientology,
maybe.
I genuinely think he's like one of the greatest actors of all time.
So, okay, this is going to be interesting because as we do talk about the franchise, the Mission Impossible franchise, one thing that we will discuss is how much emotion he genuinely brings to the role of Ethan Hunt, because
how much it escalates over the series
as things happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, as the man in the room who's touched the hand of Tom Cruise himself,
yeah,
a lot of people, for context, we're recording this on Easter weekend because we're getting it done early.
Yeah, so I
Easter
apologize.
weekend's all about JC.
I apologize if I look like shit.
Oh no, we both. Don't worry, we both do. We are a lot going on. Easter's usually about JC, but today we're making it all about TC.
And you know what?
Some people's JC.
Yeah, I was like, I'd worship at the altar of Tom Cruise.
I love this. I love this man. I love this actor. He is so thrilling in everything he does, and then he turns around and does Tropic Thunder, and I'm pissing myself laughing at his Harvey Weinstein impersonation.
And I love that he did. We will be talking about the Mission Impossible
will
series.
be about it, but this is also, as a reminder, our last 2 episodes of the show.
Yeah, so we can do whatever the fuck we want. that was not planned. That was actually good. No, but what I loved was like with Tom Cruise. Obviously, Tropic Thunder came at a time when there was a massive shift in how people perceived him.
Yes.
So we had in 2005, we had Tom Cruise getting married to Katie Holmes. And we had
jumping on the
couch with Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
And
which is perfectly parodied in Scary Movie 4.
Oh my God, so good. But this really, it turned the tide on Tom Cruise for a lot of people.
Massively. Not just in like the public eye, but also in his power as a movie star.
Yeah. And it did make some people start to, I guess, kind of almost in some ways like retreat from seeing Tom Cruise films as like the events that they were and that they still are.
Oh, big time.
But like War of the Worlds was a success. So that it didn't affect that.
Super underrated.
So underrated.
I love that movie.
Yeah. But then there was a kind of a period where it felt like we were still holding on to the couch thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Like there were these films coming out that were great.
And it
that
wasn't
were just like
the couch thing as well. There was all this stuff about like even the split from Nicole Kidman and the Scientology stuff was absolutely running rife in the media. The relationship with Katie didn't always seem as healthy.
Yeah, and it did
potentially toxic.
Yeah,
like there
and a lot of people were like, is this like more of a publicity thing?
Yes, totally. So there was definitely a nasty stench in the public eye side of things.
Yeah,
for sure.
and it felt like it kind of continued on for like...
And there was like a self-seriousness to everyone was like, oh, he's taking himself way too seriously now. Which, when Tropic Thunder comes.
Yeah, which is why Tropic Thunder, like Tom Cruise was not like, at that point... the internet still wasn't like, I mean, the internet was a thing, obviously.
Yes.
But the internet wasn't like that cesspool of like everything getting boiled like prior
right.
to the film.
Totally.
Like now we're getting like I'll just take like the new Scream movie.
Right. Yeah.
Like however many years ago, it probably would have been a surprise that people like Matthew Lillard and Scott Foley are in it. Now it's just like announced. So it takes away a certain element of surprise.
Announced or leaked, then announced.
Yeah.
Sometimes leaked by studios, allegedly.
Yeah.
But
Whereas it wasn't, to me, I don't remember knowing that Tom Cruise was in Tropic Thunder.
No, and I feel like the general reaction from audiences were they didn't even know Tom Cruise was in it until his name pops up in the end credits.
Because he. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, it's Tom Cruise. But there are a lot of people that were like, oh my god, that's Tom Cruise because he's not looking like Tom Cruise.
No, he's wearing a fat. It's a fat suit, but it makes him just look more burly.
Yeah, it makes him look very bearish.
It's always gone without saying, but that is basically like. Les Grossman is a Harvey Weinstein piss take.
I mean, the fact that his name is Gross Man.
Yeah, Gross Man, right? So you kind of go, oh, right. We all know about Harvey's mushroom dick.
And I think because at that point as well, we didn't associate Tom Cruise with profanity. Maybe even like straight up comedy. Even when
There's always like comedic charm, especially in the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, that's time. We'll get to that. But I also feel like before Mission Impossible, we've got to remember Tom Cruise's filmography.
Yeah, is actually quite varied. He's not even just a dramatic actor. He does.
I felt in the Mission Impossible films, I'll say he does comedic, like exhaustion really well.
Yes, he does. Yeah, oh my god! Anytime he does this, laughed. He does it almost in every single film.
Oh, he's he's been beaten and he's almost just give me a minute sort of thing.
Or his whole there's so many times where it's just like, Ethan, you've got to find the thing. He's like, freaking out.
I need you to open the door. Why? I'm on the plane.
Oh, he's playing.
No, I'm on the plane.
It's great. It's so funny. But that pre-Mission Impossible era, he didn't have a franchise before this when you think about it. And so you'd do something like Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Insanely heavy Vietnam War, soldier returning home, PTSD drama.
Yeah.
But then you've got Risky Business.
Yeah.
Charming young Tom Cruise.
Oh my God.
Trying to fall in love with
Rebecca De Mornay.
And then you got Outsiders, where he's just like a young punk kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then
like Cocktail.
It's
like
Color
of
Money.
Oh my God. Rain Man. Jerry Maguire.
You complete me. You know what I mean?
How this how this man doesn't have an Oscar,
I know,
is beyond me.
I think people are saying this new Inarritu movie is his Oscar play, but
and then it could also
me.
But then it could also be it's his Oscar play, but is it also going to be the career Oscar?
Very much so.
It's like is it the DiCaprio?
Because we associate Tom Cruise with the guy who does his own stunts.
Yeah.
And very much so, and we'll probably talk about it more in the later half of the franchise.
Yes.
Even though he still did stunts for these first ones, the outlandishness of them all becomes far more apparent, but it's what he's known for now.
Yeah.
People watch Top Gun Maverick and the first thing they say is, Tom Cruise flew in the jets?
Yeah.
And he did. He absolutely did. They talk about Mission Impossible. He jumped that bike off the mountain.
Absolutely. He scaled the Burj Khalifa.
The fucking Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
But we forget that passion and intensity and dedication that he brings to those, he was bringing to performances.
He's done it for everything.
40 years ago. The man is talented, but he's fucking passionate.
Yes.
And I think you can see that through all his characters.
And I think the passionate side of things also plays into just there's this weird thing about, and I see that I'm seeing it a lot more now. So we're doing this episode as the Monday of Sinners box office is out there.
Yes.
And Sinners just made
$45 million
US for a $61 million worldwide opening weekend, $90 million budget. It is the first horror film to receive an A cinema score
in history.
It's the highest grossing opening weekend for an original
film this decade.
This decade. The last one that did it was Nope.
Yep. So there we go. Which is
so
great.
It's like
Ryan Coogler's best reviewed film. It is arguably, I think they also said the best reviewed film of the decade.
It's still 90
98%.
It's still 98%.
And I think there's over 100 reviews on there now. So,
and I was like, so it's baffling to me that you have this incredible opening weekend for a film like Sinners.
Yeah.
And all I see is, it's still got a long way to go to make a profit. And you're like, and you're just like, ridiculous. I'm sorry. But then someone pointed out, Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, similar budget range, similar opening weekend.
Yeah. Made less money on more screens.
Yeah. And yet,
still a success.
And yet, I was like, Sinners, there's no way that Sinners is not becoming a success.
Sinners will not drop off that heavily this week because I think there's a lot of word of mouth still to come for this film.
I think so, yeah.
It's an incredible film. By the time this episode drops, I assume it'll probably be on VOD at this point. So where we are recording this like a month before.
Yeah. But the reason I bring that up is because the passionate side of things is that some of the latest Mission Impossible film, despite making
almost 600 million,
was deemed not as profitable because of its budget.
Yeah.
And yes, its budget was quite extensive.
It's about $300 million, I think.
But I'm going to say, because obviously there was a lot of talk about why the Electric State's budget was $320 million.
Yes, yeah.
And that's a valid question.
It's a very valid question.
Mission Impossible, so apart from the fact that you've got Tom Cruise and that fucking cast.
Especially with Dead Reckoning.
Dead Reckoning's cast is huge.
Massive cast.
And then you've got the stunts on top of that.
Yep.
We've also got to remember, this film was made during COVID.
Yes.
And Tom Cruise, being Tom Cruise and being as passionate as he is, I love it that there was the recording that was released on set of him very much like a lot of people saying, he's yelling at everybody. I was like, yes, he was yelling.
He was doing what I think any good boss would do in such a heavy situation.
He was basically saying, I will not have people walking around without masks on because you're going to lose your job. But it's not a case of losing.
He brought up in that. I remember that specifically when he was talking about. He's like, I'm on the phone to our producers and studio heads from other companies every single night.
Yeah,
they're asking us how we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
and I'm telling them this, and he's basically like, if you fuck this up, you fuck the industry up.
Yeah.
Also, quick shout out. More people need to get yelled at sometimes. It's okay. Don't be so sensitive about it.
Yeah.
Because if you're getting yelled at, 90% of the time, you probably fucked up and it's okay to come to that realization. Tom did what was necessary.
That's it. And
in that situation.
I did like that there was this thing of like, we've got to this isn't right. We've got to cancel Tom Cruise. And everyone was like, no, he's actually doing the correct thing.
Yeah, maybe we should cancel the fuckers who just weren't following the COVID protocol, threatening to shut down an industry that brings millions of people joy and happiness.
Yeah.
Fuck those guys, perhaps.
Yeah. So it just goes to show the passion and then lead into obviously the budget then ballooned a little bit because Tom Cruise was assuring everybody.
Well, he was paying people.
He was like, even if we're shut down, we will reopen. The set will reopen, and I will pay to make sure you're all compensated. Not a lot of people are going to do that.
No, because normally when a movie shuts down, you're just out of work until it reopens.
And if you want it, brothers, you'll probably cancel it to get a tax write off.
Fuck Dave Zaslav.
Anyway, we're just saying.
And similar has happened with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. It actually got delayed again because of the writers and
the writers' strike and actors' strike.
Again, Tom being the way he is like, yep, we will make sure. Especially the writers and actors who are fighting for against their disparities.
You go, who are like, if the writers don't make a script, a film actually doesn't get made.
Who would have thought? And if there's no actors in it, what are you watching then?
And we can just say we've seen some films starring people that aren't actors that you go,
So they're important.
Yeah.
So, which is all to say after 15 minutes of riding at the altar of TC, we fucking love him.
We fucking do.
And we love the passion and dedication he brings to cinema.
Yeah.
And I kind of love that this is an actor we're talking about as we close out monthly movie marathon.
Yeah, and it's not an actor that we're like one of us likes and one of us doesn't, or one of us tolerates. I love him so much, and I loved him. And I loved him before I high-fived him.
True. That is very
But
true.
that just made me just go, oh my God, Tom Cruise is amazing.
And obviously Tom's been on the show before because we did Top Gun Maverick.
We did.
When it came out, and we spoke about how much we loved him in Top Gun, the first one. We spoke about how much we loved him in American Made.
Oh my God.
You know, like he is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
He's probably one of the last remaining genuine movie stars.
Who else? Like Tom Cruise, 100%, one of the last remaining movie stars. Brad Pitt, I think, is up there. I think Brad Pitt can bring an audience in.
I think so.
F1 will be either solidify that or put it into question. Leo?
Yeah.
I feel like people go see a movie because Leo's in it.
I'm also, a part of me is going to say
Margot? Or are we counting her in like the new generation?
I think the new generation.
Yeah.
Going off of the old generation, Tom, Brad, Leo. I'm also going to say I do think Nicole Kidman's there.
I think so too. Yeah.
Because we got to look at Baby Girl was actually very profitable.
It did very well.
Yeah.
It did very well.
And you know what? Meryl Streep.
Yeah, the Streep still.
Her movies actually do really well.
Very, very well. People love Meryl.
Yeah.
And she's great. That's why. So, yeah, I think that's fair.
Denzel.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, Denzel brought in the older crowd for Gladiator 2. Paul Mescal brought in the younger crowd for Gladiator 2. And then everyone just was like, no, it was Denzel was the reason that movie was great.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. Denzel was the great in that movie.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised it didn't turn into an Oscar nomination.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and I don't even remember who.
I'd have to rewatch it. But
well, then speaking of Oscars, stunt recognition is coming to the Oscars, which Tom Cruise has probably been trying to lay the foundation.
Although
for
it's not going to be in time for this, is it?
No, 2028. So it'll be for the 100th anniversary of the Oscars.
Because watching these films,
oh my God,
if we were going to give if stunt Oscars were a thing from like the beginning, these films,
single film.
I would say at least
1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, I would say there's at least 2 of them that I would be like they would absolutely win.
Rogue Nation.
Ghost Protocol.
Ghost
Nation.
Protocol. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Fallout.
I've still got to see. I've still got to.
And you've still got to watch Fallout before this. But yes,
I mean, going off the films that we're talking about today.
Yes,
Ghost Protocol would have absolutely won. Would be nominated for the others.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
2. And then we'll see.
And for those who are going like, what the fuck are these guys going to end up actually talking about when they stop sucking Tom Cruise's... I was going to say stop sucking Tom Cruise's off. Stop sucking Tom Cruise's dick. Which, I mean, rightfully so. He's brought us so much fucking joy in cinema. The Mission Impossible franchise.
We are talking about the Mission Impossible franchise.
Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning is out on May 17th in Australia.
Yeah.
Saturday release.
Which is...
abstract weird for us.
Yeah, we usually get movies on a Thursday.
It's premiering at the Cannes Film Festival around, I think, May 14th, 15th.
Right, so we're getting it pretty
soon.
Yeah.
We are seeing it, I think, realistically around the same time.
I think we're basically seeing it at the same time as Cannes.
Because we have our invites to our previous
Yeah, those
screening.
invites came out very early and I think we were both almost like, yes.
I would just happen to be around my phone when the email came through and I went into such a tunnel vision mode. I could have been driving a car and I was like, well, fuck it, I guess.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise would do this.
Yeah, what would Tom Cruise do?
And we said yes so fucking quickly.
Yeah.
So which obviously meant we got to talk about
We're a little bit excited.
the currently 7 to be 8 film franchise based on a television show from 1966.
Yeah.
Of which this series pays a lot of homage to, I found out.
It does.
In my research. But 30 years after the TV show came out in 1996,
Yeah.
Brian De Palma brought us Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible.
Brian De Palma. Wild.
Currently, 65% critic score,
Okay.
71% audience score
Okay.
on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a little bit in the region.
I would prefer audit critics to at least be 71.
I would say so.
65 is 65 is low.
Go up though in the next few weeks.
Yeah,
and I can watch it go up.
65 is low for this film.
But it's also, without spoiling too much, not the best in the franchise.
No, it's not.
But
But it's also a great way to start a franchise.
Great way to start, and I don't think if Brian De Palma had set the tone of this film the way he did, I don't think the franchise would look the way it even does now.
Yeah.
In that sense, I think a lot of the fun and a lot of the charm of the spy film is absolutely rooted in the DNA of the first Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
It's not campy. I know I've seen a lot of letterbox reviews goes, oh, this is a fun, campy spy film. It's a great espionage thriller.
I wouldn't say
that
campy.
wears its self-awareness on its sleeve.
I wouldn't. There's camp.
It's not as campy as Bond. Bond, like an early Bond. Sorry, not Daniel Craig Bond. I'm talking like
but even Brosnan Bond is
Connery
super
Bond.
campy.
That's campy.
Yeah.
That is like a sex-addicted man. That's a man who's got a serious sex problem and a drinking problem, being a spy and using his like bullish charm. Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise, has charm.
Oh, so much.
He's a man who is also willing to do whatever it takes to get the mission done. Whereas James Bond's like, I'll fuck anything to get the mission done.
Whereas Tom Cruise is like, I don't have time to fuck anybody.
Yeah, he's like, where
He's
all
like,
this fucking
he was like, I'll have plenty of insane sexual chemistry with like every single woman in this
He's
franchise.
aware that charm gets things
And
done.
also, let's just talk about the fact, like, look, Tom Cruise, attractive man.
Yeah.
In Mission Impossible, I was like, "You're a little baby."
He's a little baby. He's a little baby
He's
face.
very.
He's 96.
He's very handsome in Mission Impossible.
And he's handsome. He's very handsome in number 3 as well. Actually, something we will talk about. And it's actually, if I ever got to
I was
ask
like,
him
we're
a
going to rank
question-
the movies going by Tom Cruise's handsomeness.
Well, his haircuts say a lot about where he is in each film.
Yeah.
So this is how deep dive we've gone.
No,
into
this
the
is like
Mission Impossible
So we've got
franchise.
like buzz cut Ethan.
We have long hair, slicked back Ethan in Mission Impossible 2. We have settled down married man cut in Mission Impossible 3.
Ghost Protocol is kind of like, I'm a bachelor now.
He's wearing the open button suit shirts with the jacket.
He's so hot in Ghost Protocol.
He's very hot in Ghost Protocol. And then he's a bit more battered and weathered as the films go on from that point because as will be a common theme within every film and basically the synopsis of every Mission Impossible film, we find Ethan Hunt, an agent for the IMF.
Which is the Impossible Mission Force.
Love that.
Yeah. Like,
no further explanation needed than Impossible Mission Force. What do you do? Oh, we're a force who take on impossible missions. Oh, what do you call yourself? The Impossible Mission Force.
Be like,
makes sense.
And you'd be like, I have zero follow-up questions.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
After a mission gone wrong,
which is also another thing that's quite common
in every single one, the entire team under Ethan Hunt or under Jim Phelps in this, played by John Voight.
This is kind of before Ethan is like
a leader,
top dog.
Yeah.
He's
an agent.
He's an agent. He's one of the he's one of the more like prominent agents.
Yes.
But he still has people that he works for.
He very much reports to.
Yeah.
The secretary is a big character in all these films, and Jim Phelps is
played
the
by
secretary.
John Voight,
who's also for John Voight is a babyface in this film.
Yeah.
He's just like a 50-year-old babyface as opposed to Tom's late 20s to early 30s.
I'm gonna say I think Tom Cruise would have been in his early to mid 30s in this. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's true 30 years ago, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, because he celebrated his 61st birthday at the screening of this.
Premiere.
Yeah.
So the IMF, he's a lead agent working under the secretary, and when a mission goes wrong, as they do, as is part of the rules, I guess, of the IMF, you are disavowed.
Yeah.
They will.
Yeah, we hold no accountability.
We don't know who you are. Good luck.
Yeah.
Sayonara. And Ethan is one of the surviving members of an ambush on the IMF.
We'll just talk about 15 minutes into this film?
Yep.
It basically kills off its entire cast.
Which is awesome. Emilio Estevez being one of them in an uncredited role.
Which was wild. Like, there are probably going to be people going,
Yeah.
who the fuck is Emilio Estevez?
Oh,
Charlie Sheen's brother.
yes.
Emilio Estevez in the 80s and 90s
Yep.
was like, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Young Guns?
I was like, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if you kids know. Young Guns. Whew.
Young Guns 2 as well.
Stakeout.
Yep.
Another Stakeout.
Yep.
And you know what is quite possibly the best Emilio Estevez movie?
Yeah.
Loaded Weapon 1.
Loaded Weapon 1 is so funny.
Why we do not have a Loaded Weapon 2 is
Which
beyond
is even
me.
funnier, to be honest. Samuel Jackson's in
Samuel
Loaded Weapon.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Loaded Weapon 1 is one of the funniest spoof movies.
Yes, it's
it
part
is
of the
so
National
good.
Lampoon.
It basically is
universe
taking the
parody
piss out of
films.
like Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
But like all of those kind of movies. It
It's
is
so funny.
There is Tim Curry
Oh my God, that's
as
right.
a little brownie selling girl going, wilderness girls. Oh my God. Anyway, that's a tangent. But
Emilio Estevez
is
uncredited. in this
uncredited.
film. His only other best uncredited performance is in Night at the Roxbury, 3, which he's not actually in the film. They just scream his name every time. And I love it.
But Emilio Estevez, Kristen Scott Thomas.
Yep.
Emmanuel Bert. I think that's how you pronounce her last name.
Yeah, Emmanuel Beatz. Yeah. Who ends up popping back up.
Yes.
She survives the...
But Emilio Estevez's death scene is pretty horrific.
Yes, there's... because he gets crushed by the elevator. That's
Like
right. Yeah.
the claw comes out of the elevator and
Yeah.
like it goes into, and you get like that. They just cut it
enough.
off enough.
Just enough.
But it's wild for a movie like this.
Yes.
Where you, in your mind, you're going Mission Impossible. They'll be on all of these missions, and they
It's like
build
these like those globe-trotting adventures.
and they build up like
the chemistry
between these characters that you get in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You learn the dynamics of everybody.
Yep.
You know that Emmanuel Bear's character Claire is married to Jim,
the secretary.
but you also get that she harbors feelings for Ethan.
Yes. Because there's also a distinct age gap between Claire and Jim, yes. It was the 90s, guys.
But the fact that they all basically die,
yeah, it's crazy.
and you're just like, what kind of movie? What kind of movie am I watching now?
And then it turns into an Ethan Hunt who has been disavowed by Henry Chaney. Who is fucking brilliant, and I'm so glad he pops up later on
when
in
his
the
name came up in the
franchise.
credits, I was like, oh my God, he was in this from the beginning.
Yes. So
But then he's not in it until number 7.
again, which is even great.
Yeah.
But he's the director of the IMF.
Yes.
Which
Kittredge.
Kittredge, that's
Yeah.
right. So he basically is like, we were doing a mole hunt and we figured that since you're the only person who has survived this, Ethan, you're the mole, you got everyone killed. And then Ethan's like, whoop, I got to get out of here. Awesome escape with the little gum, the red and green gum. Put it together and
red
blow
light,
it
green
up.
light. Put it.
What happens if I chew it? Sayonara to your mouth. It's fucking great.
But this also goes to show where
Tom
Cruise's mind was in terms of like stunt work and action sequences. So the sequence where he's having dinner with Kittredge, and Kittredge is like, yeah, you're the only one alive. We have to assume you're the mole.
Yeah.
We are now going to come after you. Grabs the gum, throws it. So he's at this restaurant, which is like outside, has this massive glass wall, or like basically a massive aquarium.
It's massive aquarium. Yeah.
And he throws the gum at the aquarium, so it explodes, shatters. So
yeah.
it manages. But that was Tom Cruise's idea,
That's fucking awesome.
because he's like to basically have that sequence play out the way it did.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And then you just know that Tom's like, you don't need a stunt person in here.
Yeah,
I'll
he
fucking
just runs
run.
out. He
And
just-
this is where we get the briefest glimpse of the Tom Cruise run,
yes. Which is a prominent feature of
which I
every
feel,
Mission
which I
Impossible
feel 3 and then definitely 4 really amp up the Tom
contractual
Cruise run.
obligations
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well with the amount of running that he gets to do in these films.
Yeah.
He runs away. He is on the run, but he's also like, Ethan Hunt is a man of moral integrity.
Yeah.
And he will go, I'm not going to cave in this. I'm not going to just be on the run for the rest of my life. I'm going to make it my mission to prove my innocence.
Yeah.
And to show that I'm not the mole, but I will find the mole in the IMF. That's how much he loves his country.
Yeah.
That's how much he loves the IMF.
Yeah.
So he gets together a bunch of disavowed agents, previous agents who have been.
This is
kicked
where we
apart.
get the introduction of Luther.
Luther,
Ving
played by Ving
Rhames.
who is the only character aside from Tom to be in every
single
single
one.
film, and God is he great. I love Ving Rhames.
He's
in these
so
movies.
good, yeah.
He's great. The fact that he is as big and burly, and the Ving Rhames voice is iconic. It's this deep voice.
Yeah.
And he's the tech guy.
Yeah.
He's the hacker.
Yeah.
And I love that shit. He's never in the field. He's barely in any of the films. He's never in the shootouts.
No.
It is so great that he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to be there. I'm going to be the tech guy. But he
Because
over the films,
but
especially his early ones, develops a really strong friendship with Ethan,
yeah.
after this film.
But I think that also then plays into, like, I guess the intelligence of the film, where they'd be like,
True.
you put someone like Ving Rhames out in the public, and everyone's going to be like,
Yep.
oh, I'm 100% suspicious of him.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
there's no way
absolutely.
that he's not going to do undercover very well.
No, that's it. He
So
would
I like that
stick out.
they're like, just sit in the van.
Stay in the
or
van and
sit on
be-
top of a build, like wherever you need to be.
And he is just one of the best because he is very much like Ethan's moral, like not necessarily moral compass or moral center, but he's the one who grounds Ethan the most.
Yeah.
He's the one who's never afraid to question Ethan on a serious
Well-
thing. And I love that. I love that relationship.
It comes up
between them.
it does come up in 3.
Yes, very
where
much so,
there's
yeah,
like
yeah.
a question of Ethan's relationship with someone.
Yeah, yeah,
And he
yeah.
basically, he's like, if I don't ask you, who's going to?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's like,
Exactly.
we need to actually, we really need to go, we need to look at what people are going to think. And
Yeah.
like, I'm not asking you because
And then that friendship
Yeah.
is very much at an emotional core of the franchise,
Yeah.
which is great because you don't get, like, think about James Bond. Again, outside of the Craig films, I think they're in their own sort of separate
I think the
thing.
Craig films the relationship he builds with M is
very much so.
Yeah.
You don't get, like, Bond doesn't have friends.
No.
Jason Bourne doesn't really have friends either. He does like the anti sort of Ethan Hunt when he has to go on the run. He's
Yeah.
just like, I'm going to stay on the run, but I'm going to take down the people who fucks me over.
And, like, the closest
Ethan's
thing
like, no, I love the IMF and
Yeah.
I want to keep the integrity of the IMF together because who else is going to save the world?
You know what? Because you know what? So I have been watching.
And that's not critical of Bond.
No.
or Bourne.
No.
They're just two different things.
It just reminded me because I've been watching the Mission Impossible films, but like I've watched basically one, and then I'll watch just like other films for the
in
sake
between
of
them.
it.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And it just made me think. Apart from, so we've got obviously Ethan Hunt, and we've got Jason Bourne and James Bond, and I was like, you know who another secret agent who actually has a friend? Johnny English.
Oh my God, in every single one.
Because he has
yeah,
both. And I watched
I
Johnny
love
and I
Johnny
watched
English.
Johnny English Strikes Back because I was like, I just want something to laugh.
Johnny English Strikes Back is really funny.
It's so fun.
very, very funny.
And it just made me
that
think
whole trilogy is great.
it just made me think, oh yeah, he's actually got somebody.
Yeah.
And the
sweet,
and the friend is the one that actually does everything correctly.
Exactly. And we all need that friend. God knows Ethan Hunt does within Luther. But Luther's in this film. And then Jean Reno is another disavowed IMF agent. But he's a bit of a fucking rogue.
But I love watching because I hadn't seen Mission Impossible since I remember watching all of them leading up to Fallout.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
what,
yeah. 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been about 7 years since I've seen Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
There are obviously things that I remember, but there are some things that I forget.
Yeah, of
but
course.
watching it, as soon as Jean Reno came on screen, I just remember the way that he goes, "Excuse me, Mr. Hunt."
Yeah.
And I was like, there it is.
Jean Reno in his prime here, in his Hollywood prime, because he had this and he had like Godzilla.
The
he had
Professional.
Like he was
did this,
making some Hollywood
He did
waves.
this super underrated romantic comedy with Meg Ryan called French Kiss.
Oh, okay. I've never seen it.
No, actually, no, that wasn't him. It
Oh.
was Kevin Kline doing a French accent. No,
Shit, yeah, fair.
because I was like, he's done. No, he
That's
hasn't.
funny. That's
I
fucking
will
funny.
say though, see, French Kiss with Kevin Kline and Meg Ryan is
Hey,
really,
sure,
really
if you're looking
good.
for a bit of like a cool down after
Why
the
I thought
intensity
that
of
was
Mission
I just
Impossible
Kevin Kline
franchise.
just does French really well.
That's so fucking funny. Yeah, I mean, hey, shit. Kevin Kline, great actor. No,
No,
Jean
yeah.
Reno, great
Great
actor.
actor.
But yeah, he gets them together and they have to ultimately break into a high security facility that has potentially all the information they need to find out who the mole is. And it leads to like
This is
what kind of like starts the stunt?
this is, and I feel like this
Vibes?
this sequence is arguably one of the sequences that when you think of Mission Impossible,
Big time.
you think of to me.
Iconic
To me,
imagery.
I just think of the imagery of him dropping to the floor.
Yes, because it's this super secure computer room that's like if you make too much noise, alarms goes off. If the temperature of the room rises because there's a body in it, it'll go off.
Like,
if you
it's-
touch the floor when it's been locked, it'll go off.
Basically, it's like programmed to know that the one person who's meant to be in there
Yes.
is like has a certain body temperature, and it's not allowed to go. Basically,
Or it turns it off when he goes in.
when you
right?
leave the room, it basically shuts down and knows if something's in there.
And the only way in is through a vent in the roof.
Yeah. Well, the only way in for them because they know that they can't get through.
Yes, very much so. And then, it's the iconic. I don't even know what it's called. Like it's not even a bungee. It's like
he's just being
he's just on a rope, being lowered down.
Yeah,
and it's the one where he's sweating, so he's worried about the sweat hitting the floor.
And you see
about the noise meter in there. But then it's he gets dropped and caught, and he's literally like millimeters from the floor, holding himself up
because John Renault's up the top holding on to him, and then there's like a mouse that comes near him and he's freaking out. And like I was like, that sequence is so impeccably crafted.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And the fact that there's like no music.
So the tension is
so all you're hearing is him just going heavy breathing.
Yeah.
And this one little bit of sweat that's like holding onto his glasses.
When it hits the glasses, I was like, we're fucked.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie many times, and I'm still sitting there going like, oh God,
and it's the fact that he then catches it.
But then he catches it, and then he's hoisted up halfway to the roof when the guy comes
back into the room.
Oh my days.
And then the knife drops.
Okay, because that's even better because he gets hoisted up. So he's managed to copy it to a floppy disk. Classic. It's the 90s.
It's the 90s.
And Jean Reno then shows his true intentions, and he's like, he goes, mercy, and then like steals it from Hunt and then drops him. And then gets caught again. Oh, and then the knife, falls. And then it's like tries to catch it. The knife goes in the desk. The guy comes back as they just get up into the roof.
Realizes what's happened. And then I love that we overhear Kittredge just basically just say like, make sure that he's in Antarctica like by the end of the day. Oh. And you're just like, this poor guy who did nothing wrong.
But just it's the collateral damage of world freedom. So and it's fantastic. Like as the story goes on and they find out more, they basically they find out the fact that Jim Phelps was the one who orchestrated this ambush on the IMF.
Well,
the mole.
Well, I do like the fact that like so Claire, who we assume has died, comes back. And Tom Cruise is obviously suspicious, and she says, I got out of the car.
Yeah.
She's like, I didn't come back here until 4 a.m. because that's what we were told. And you're watching it going, I believe her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when John Voight comes back, initially you're kind of like, okay, I'm looking at this. I saw this film in the cinema at 11 years old.
Sure. Yeah.
And I remember being like, like I wasn't looking at John Voight as the villain.
No.
And what I really love is like the way that they reveal it is done so like
it's almost nonchalant.
Yeah.
It's like
he's like John Voight's character is explaining to Ethan like this is what actually happened. And Tom Cruise, Ethan, is like, I'm very like I love that he's like, I'm very aware that you're the one orchestrating this.
Yes.
So we're seeing Ethan's like
real time
process of like, oh my God, he blew up this, he blah blah blah.
Yeah.
As Jim is explaining it like he's not
the Bible too, that Bible thing, and it's
Yeah,
from
the Drake Hotel.
The Drake Hotel, right? So you kind of go.
So
that's almost a play to the audience. Like if you haven't caught up yet, it's like, so oh shit, he's the villain.
It's just so well done how Jim is explaining what happened to make himself seem like he's innocent.
Yeah.
But it's playing with images of him actually doing it.
Yeah.
As Ethan is like, this is what happened, but Ethan's then got to play it like, I believe you.
Yeah.
It's so well done, and it's really it's not done in this like, there's no like music to like make you realize it's a twist. It's just revealing it, and you just go, oh wow. So then for the rest of the film, you're like, Ethan is aware that Jim's the villain.
Yeah.
Jim is not aware that Ethan knows.
Yes, and both of them are after the same thing, which is this list of every secret agent's identity, not just from IMF, but from the whole world of secret agencies. So for Ethan, it becomes this thing of like, I still need to get this list.
Because I still need to...
Jim can't know that I know.
Because at this point, Ethan is still the mole.
He's still the mole.
Jim could very easily, if Jim gets away with it, he can very easily go, I stopped Ethan.
I stopped him. I got the list.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
safe. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, which leads to this exciting finale on the train.
This is probably the most like, I feel like for most of Mission Possible, it's quite a grounded action film.
I agreed. This is the most over the top one.
This is the over the top
Which
sequence.
is funny when we think about what comes later in the
Yeah,
franchise.
yeah.
When we go, actually, this is the most unrealistic one.
Though to be
which
fair,
it very much it is.
yeah, this is apart from 2.
Yes, yeah, true. Which again,
This is like
we'll talk about.
considering the things that Ethan does.
Yeah.
this is still wildly over the
wildly
top.
over the top.
Just
Considering
like
the fact that
just like logistically.
like the amount of time there is a helicopter chasing a train inside of a
tunnel.
tunnel in which trains are still coming in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So the size of the helicopter changes throughout the scene.
But you know what? This is where I also think
Was I on the edge of my seat?
absolutely.
Yes,
and
of
I
course
think
I
this
was.
is where Brian De Palma really just goes, we've got to remember this is based on a 1960s
Yes.
television show which thrived in the fact that it was
Oh.
as over the top as it was.
And again, it just shows the fact that this franchise, and if Brian De Palma didn't commit to the wearing the self-awareness on its sleeve,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have the exciting mission. We wouldn't have Tom Cruise doing what he does later in the film
Yeah.
if it wasn't sort of unrealistic to start with.
Yeah.
Because if that's the foundation, then
Yeah.
anything is
Yeah, yeah.
possible.
But that being
which is
said,
great.
as you said, you're still watching it going, I'm buying it.
I'm buying it. I'm having a fucking
I'm
great
having a
time
great
watching
time.
it.
Yeah.
A helicopter chasing a train in which Ethan Hunt is on top of the train.
And John Voight is attached to the bottom of the helicopter,
Helicopter.
which then you just go, well, this is only going to end one way, and it ends exactly as you think it would.
Exactly as you would expect it to.
He gets flattened between the train tracks and the bottom of the helicopter,
which is a brutal way to go.
just as the helicopter
Another bit
explodes.
of iconography for the franchise is when the helicopter explodes and Ethan is thrust by the explosion
yeah.
onto the train into frame. Which is a very Brian De Palma thing to do because it's that split diopter.
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing. Now, controversially, I'm not a fan of split diopter shots. Yet,
Okay.
if you go on X or Letterboxd,
my God.
a lot of the cinephile community love the split
They love a
diopter shot.
diopter. Yeah.
De Palma does a fuckload of them in this film.
Mm.
And there was actually a couple where I was like, I do like the way that's done.
Yeah.
Normally I'm just not, I don't find them aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
But there was a few in this one where I went, okay, you've done that well and it works well for that sort of thing there. So Brian De Palma's style, his tone, the atmosphere of the film, and the action mixed with Tom Cruise's charisma, his charming, younger energy, but his commitment to the action is the foundation of this franchise.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Mission Impossible 1 is not the best movie in the franchise.
No.
But if it wasn't the way, if it did not get made this way, we would not have the franchise.
Yeah.
100%. No matter what misstep we lead into next,
Yes.
Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah.
The fact that it kind of goes back to its roots every single time just with a different director's flavor
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yes, so we will say that we are talking about the first 4 films.
We should have said that at the start, yes. We
Because-
apologize, we're 45 minutes
yeah,
into this.
because
We're excited, guys.
we were initially just going to do 1, 2, and 3 because they feel a little bit more.
Disconnect, yeah.
It's weird. They
yeah.
feel a little bit more cohesive in their disconnection.
Yes.
But we were like, no, let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4 because these are the only 4 films that are directed by different
Yes,
directors
4
each
different
time.
directors, 4 different
Whereas
films.
from 5 onwards,
the
it's
McHugh-
one.
it's
It's
the McHugh
Mr.
era.
It's Mr. McHugh. So we were like, okay, let's do the first 4 because yes, they all do very much feel like individual movies.
Very much so, yeah.
Like you could
story connections, but yeah.
but you could watch 3 not having seen 1 or 2.
Absolutely. No, 100%.
You could watch 4 without seeing 1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely,
You could
yeah.
watch 1 and then watch 4.
Yeah. Actually, very much so, yeah.
Like you could pretty much.
There's, apart from minor connections, you can pick up on the nuances within the other films.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's totally, its thing. I
but-
will just say, $80 million budget, made $457 million worldwide. No wonder. we got a fucking 8-film franchise out of this.
But that was not. So that's 1996.
1996.
So you know what? This is the other funny thing where we're getting everybody cracking the shits about how long it's taking for a Batman sequel.
Yeah, well, 4 years.
Guess what we
later.
had to? Yeah, guess what we had to do in the 90s and early 2000s? Wait 4 years for Mission Impossible 2.
John Woo's Mission Impossible 2.
Can I just
year of our Lord 2000?
And I'll just say, as someone who was how old? I was 15.
Yep.
The absolute wildness that was around the fact that Mission Impossible 2 was coming out and was filmed in Sydney and Tom Cruise was in Australia.
Yeah.
It was absolute
Pandemonium.
mayhem.
That's so exciting.
But it's like, Tom Cruise, like, he legitimately loves Australia.
Yeah, he talks it.
And that's why he comes back. Like, whenever he gets the chance.
He's doing a big tour.
So like, because I know that he came. Obviously, Mission Impossible 2. I know that he came back for The Mummy.
Yep.
I was at that premiere.
Yep.
I did not get. I was still kind of like
making your way downtown.
Making my way down. So I didn't get interviews for The Mummy, but I was at the Sydney premiere with Tom and with Russell. So I was like, oh my god. And then obviously he comes for Dead Reckoning Part 1. But he loves Australia.
Yeah.
And
so much so, Mission Impossible 2 is set. Not just filmed in Sydney for somewhere else. It is set in Sydney.
And it's one of those things where they just make like it's not hard to make Sydney look beautiful.
No, God.
But
no.
my God, do they make Sydney look beautiful?
They do. And then they take it to outback Australia as well, and you're like the red sand, the shining sun,
and then whatever
endless horizon.
Yeah, and then whatever house they stay in is always like on the water. The architecture
the house they stay in. You go that way, you can see the Harbour Bridge. You go that way, you see the Opera House. Like
and you're like, and I don't know if that sort of house actually exists.
Like, is that a real place?
Like, it's one of those things. Like, we're in
on the water as well.
We're like in every hotel in a movie in Paris. There's always the Eiffel Tower. Like, I don't know if every house gives you the view of the Opera House and the.
Also, just for those who don't know the geography of Sydney, it's a big city.
It's a very big city.
And the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House are not tall fixtures. They are really only seen from Darling Harbour. Like, you have to be at the harbour to see those things.
Yeah.
So let's just say that's a very rich place to live.
Yeah.
Very rich place to live.
Yeah.
And John Woo seems like a logical director to bring in.
Yeah.
Especially with Mission Impossible, which is, again, a slightly heightened take on the spy genre. And you get the guy who made Face Off. You get the guy who made Broken Arrow. You get the guy who made Hard Boiled. These action films that are very over the top. They have a very serious tone to a lot of them sometimes. Except maybe Face Off, which leans probably more into the fun of things. But they have these sort of wilder tones.
Face Off does have some really
dark moments.
Very dark moments.
Oh, absolutely. But it's Travolta and Cage that really bring...
And it's Travolta and Cage at like their most Travolta and their most Cage.
I'm going to take his face
off. I really hope we get a remake.
I think Wingard was supposed to be doing it.
And for some reason, I'd love it if they just
brought them back
or did like a thing where it's The Rock and like Jennifer Lopez or something where it's just like
crazy.
This can't work at all.
Different body compositions.
But then just be like, but when you change their face, it changes their body. That would just be awesome.
It's so fucking good.
They'll do something where it's like they'll take their consciousness or something.
Yeah,
weird.
it'll be a mind swap.
Yeah.
Mind off.
But
John Woo seems like the logical next step. Whether it worked or not, critics 56%. This is the lowest rated Mission Impossible film. The only rotten.
Yeah, which we've also got to say that's wild
that you have
one rotten and it's still like pretty high.
They're all quite high.
Like
Mission Impossible 2 is the second lowest. Mission Impossible 1, is the second lowest.
Yeah, okay.
They only get increasingly better from there. 42% for audiences, so audiences do not respond to this film.
Yeah,
me kind of being one of them. There are elements of Mission Impossible 2 that I love.
Yeah,
the opening. Even before we get to rock climbing Tom Cruise, free solo Tom Cruise, the opening action scene is genuinely incredible.
Yeah.
Really love it. The climax of the film, the last act, the car chase around Sydney in Holden Commodores, brilliant. Fucking awesome. Villain, weak. Storyline, weak. Middle part of this movie, slow as fuck. mark. Not a lot happens in this movie, yet it still manages to hit the 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
This, to me, is the most Bond that Mission Impossible gets.
Yeah, this is
And it doesn't work.
This is the most. Yeah, this is the kind of Bond movie you imagine Pierce Brosnan would make.
110%.
It's in that like
100%.
it's that kind of like everything's. This goes very over the top. It goes like the thing is it goes over the top. The action to me is still like it's over the top, but it's still actually pretty on par.
Yeah.
The over the topness to me is just John. It's all the John Woo-isms of it.
Yes, very much so.
It's like the music is like the music seems almost like it's taking the piss out of it.
It's trying
there's
to
a
be
lot
too
of
on the nose.
lot of slow motion shots.
I did. I wrote in my letterbox thing. I was like, the runtime of this movie, 124 minutes. Runtime of this movie without slow motion, 105 minutes.
Yeah.
Runtime of this film without all the boring bits, opening and closing scenes.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of slow motion.
And I think like, and also Tom Cruise's hair adds to a lot of like the like
Did I
this.
say messiness? Was that
This is camp Mission Impossible.
This is Camp Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
and it just solidified the fact that camp doesn't work for this franchise at all.
But we will say, much like every Mission Impossible film,
Yep.
these films get banger casts.
Oh, huge cast. Tanway Newton.
Tanway Newton,
So fucking good in this film. Dougray.
Dougray Scott.
Dougray Scott.
The original Wolverine.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He was going to be Wolverine.
Kind of glad we got Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And I don't think Dougray Scott's a bad actor. He's just
Yeah.
not good. in this.
Then we have South African Richard Roxburgh.
Which we should bring up. Recently, we did get to talk to Richard
interviewed.
Roxburgh, and he's
so lovely.
He's lovely, and there are so many roles he's been in that I love.
And he in my interview, he did say he's like, so often do I get to play. He plays theatrical. He plays over the top a lot, and you look at his career and you just go, yeah.
And
So
this
his
is a very much
his
testament to
latest
that.
film,
Very
The
much
Correspondent, is one of the few films where he really just gets to like be quite grounded and quite serious.
Yes.
He's doing super Bond villain in this.
Super Bond villain. He's the right hand man to Dougray Scott's character.
He's all like, but I was like, he's almost like more of the villain than Dougray Scott. I would say.
Yeah, I would say so. Actually,
Like
yeah,
he's
that's a
got
fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
he's got the evil,
He's got more evil shit going on.
Yeah.
We also got Brendan Gleeson, who fucking rocks up.
Brendan Gleeson pops up
as the CEO of the biotech company.
John Paulson,
rocks up. In this film.
director of Swim Fan.
Oh, I didn't know that actually. There we go.
Yeah.
Swim Fan. That's not a movie I've thought about in a long time.
Also, another
Ving Rhames pops up again.
Bing Rhames, another uncredited moment. Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins as the secretary.
Yeah.
He's the new secretary.
Well, there's a reason why it's called Mission. What is it?
It's reason it's called the Impossible Mission Force. Yes, this is so fucking good.
Anthony Hopkins.
Who's
Who's gets the voice cameo first, and I was like, that's Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
And then
he gets
you see his beautiful face, and you're like, Anthony Hopkins.
Funnily enough, as well. I was speaking about the opening scene that I loved, which is it's a plane heist. Like they use the. It's I love the bait and switch of like you think Tom Cruise is helping this guy escape the country with a biological weapon. And they use the IMF mask, which again, an iconic aspect. Of
I will also say the effects in this are fantastic.
Incredible, truly incredible.
For that alone.
Every time someone pulls off the mask and it goes from someone's genuine face to someone else, it is perfect.
Yeah.
I've never seen a bad mask transition.
No, it's so well.
The Mission Impossible
it's
films.
so well done.
And then even like what a bold way to open your film is to have your hero then be like, oh, there's something wrong with Ethan.
Like
and
he's
bang, it's the villain in a mask,
and then
it works every time.
And then it makes you just go. You kind of then watch sequences in this film, and you're like, is it actually Ethan?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know who to trust now. And there is one scene where it is him. It's not him. You're like,
fucking hell.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's so good. But in that scene, Tom Cruise's cousin, William Mapotha,
yeah.
and Dominic Purcell
Yes.
of Prison Break fame. Like,
Who is
holy
now Miley Cyrus's stepdad.
shit. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
That came in like a wrecking ball. But yes, so
Sorry to completely just derail
To
you
derail.
with that. Yeah.
so yeah, ultimately, much like as we said in the first one, as will be the case, Ethan is brought on to take down a rogue IMF agent. Shit goes wrong, gets disavowed, and has to prove his innocence. And well, especially because it's his identity being used for a lot of this stuff. What I will say is, so like the opening scene, the plane heist, awesome. Terrifying way to open because they do kill a plane full of people, which is crazy. You kind of get these heavy stakes early on.
I will say, yes, but I was like, I'm glad that they at least were like knocked out beforehand.
That is true. That is very
like
true.
it's still horrific to just be like, oh, you've just hijacked a plane and killed innocent
Everyone.
people.
But they were
like,
nice enough
They
to-
were nice enough to like
to gas everyone.
them first.
And then we get the rock climbing.
That's such a
entrance.
horrible sentence.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so nice that you gassed them before you killed them.
At least you knocked them out before.
Yeah, at least
sending them to their
at least they
eternal sleep.
didn't have that thing of like, oh my god, we're
Yes.
going to die. Yeah,
Then we get rock climbing Tom Cruise.
rock climbing Tom Cruise,
which I think one of the campiest moments, but a moment that I do kind
is
of
it
love
when
is that. But when the helicopter then approaches him and he gets his mission through the sunglasses,
yeah.
which again, like every film, there is a great way that the mission is brought forward to Ethan.
Yep.
And he's like this will self-destruct in 5 seconds, glasses off, throws to the camera, explosion, Mission Impossible 2, which for the opening credits, every Mission Impossible film opening credits is a homage to the TV series, in which the opening credits would show you clips that are going to come from the episode.
And it's
before.
so wild that it does that, and yet it doesn't necessarily it doesn't spoil anything.
It's literally like a teaser within the movie to be like,
Yeah.
there's some cool shit
Coming up.
and
Yeah.
you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
And of course the iconic Mission Impossible theme song.
I was about to say that theme song genuinely does things to me.
We
So
get so excited.
obviously
when we watch
the opening credits have the thing. When you hear it in an action sequence,
Oh, you know shit's about to
it's
go down.
so
Or you
rousing.
hear the little teaser of
Yeah.
it. The dun dun.
Oh,
dun,
it's
dun,
so well.
dun.
I think it's
Or the
yeah, but like when it's put into an action sequence in the
it's
film,
so good.
I remember sitting there just going like,
I get so pumped.
Oh.
Hearing it on cinema speakers, there's literally no other fucking.
like
oh,
it makes me so excited
It's
to think
so
what's
good.
going to happen in Final
I
Reckoning.
can't wait. And they usually get different composers throughout, but Lorne Balfe's been the most recent one, and his oh my god, Linkin Park do a cover of the Mission Impossible theme song for number 2, which I mean there is a punk rock sort of vibe in the film.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately brought down by a meandering plot that seemingly goes nowhere for a long time.
They kind of go in circles with the whole thing of like, we know that Tandaway Newton's character had a relationship with Dougray Scott, so
Yeah.
it's like you need to
Who, by the way, is an ex-IMF agent
yeah.
as well.
So it's like that's why he kind of knows how to do everything.
Exactly, yeah.
It kind of just goes like back and forth with like, get her out. No, she needs to stay in. Get her out. He needs to stay in. But anyway,
Dougray Scott's not good in this film. I don't know whether it's him or the script. Because I'm unfortunately going to say the same thing about Tandaway Newton. I do not think she's good in this movie. And I don't know if it's her. Well, it's not her because I've seen her.
no,
be
she's
great in
she's a
things.
great actress. Yeah,
But it's just, I don't know if she was miscast in this film.
I'm a bloody thief.
Yeah, like maybe it's the tone, maybe it's that campy tone they're going for. And
I think
it just
I think it
doesn't
is.
work
I
well.
think it's more of a campy tone.
know. And that's unfortunate because I think, well, ultimately they do the biochemical virus later on in the franchise. There is an element of like a
I think-
smallpox outbreak thing in Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, I think the oh my god, you literally just said the word and I forgot.
Biochemical,
The biochemical. Yeah, I think the idea in this film is actually terrifying.
Awful, yeah, absolutely
like
terrifying.
the
God,
fact that
fuck
it's
yeah.
called like chimera,
Yes,
which is this ancient mythology about the body of a the body of a snake and the head of a lion or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like they've basically mutated two like super viruses together.
Yeah, and then they're like, we're going to take out the world.
I was like, that's terrifying and that's cool. And that's weirdly something that would be like, this could happen in any year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's just a bit of a shame that it's not as, I don't know, like this film, to me, the stakes never felt as high.
110%.
Like,
yes, absolutely.
especially when we get the jump up to 3.
Big time.
This was never a film where I felt anybody was in danger.
No, not. And the relationship between Hunt and Tandoi Newton's character, which I forgot her name in the film, which is Naya. The chemistry there just wasn't. It just wasn't as engaging. Which unfortunately, Tandoi Newton had an interview a couple of years ago where she said she probably didn't feel as comfortable on that set. She didn't say anything about like bad things that happened to her, but she was just like, I just never felt like the work was being appreciated, or like it was constantly being challenged by people like Tom Cruise and stuff. Who Tom's coming into his first ever sequel, in you know, and he's a producer on these films and stuff. So he's obviously coming at it from a point of view of like, if you're not doing as well as we want, he probably would let you know.
Yeah,
whether or not he went about it. He probably goes about it more the right way now. In 2000, I could probably see Tom Cruise being a bit more of a.
And I also I have a feeling that this was also around the time that his marriage with Nicole Kidman was dissolving.
So there's probably a lot of things going on, which is no excuse to treat someone poorly because of it.
Because
I think Tandoi Newton was affected by it.
Because I think because I remember Nicole Kidman spoke about Moulin Rouge. Like Moulin Rouge was filmed probably around the same. Like Mission Impossible was 2000. Moulin Rouge was 2001, but they were both filmed in Australia.
Yeah.
And I do remember Nicole Kidman saying, like, outside of filming Moulin Rouge, she was like, I was not remotely in a good spot. So I can kind of see this being around that time. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of those things of like, you kind of, unfortunately,
as much some personal stuff
as much as you want to be like, work and life are separate.
No, it's not always the case.
And it's like, and that was a marriage that was like, no one thought that was going to end.
No, yeah.
Like, if you were around the time of
Tom and Nicole,
Tomcat. Sorry, that's Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes.
Okay. I didn't even know.
Did they get a nickname? I don't think they had a nickname, but that was like it. That was such a big deal.
Yeah, right.
And it was a big deal for Australians because it was like Nicole is like, you know,
she's out.
But she's like making something of herself. Oh, and she bags Tom Cruise,
movie star Tom Cruise.
Yeah, so it was a big thing. So I can kind of see that happening.
And I don't. Yeah, I think. And what I read with what Tandoi was saying is she was like, look, she's not coming out and being like, it was a terrible but she was like, it impacted her. She did not have a good time making this film, and that probably comes through with the chemistry.
Yeah, I do think their first scene together when she's trying to steal the necklace and they're in the bath. I was like that. I was like, it's a bit cute.
Bondy though.
Yeah, it is very Bondy.
Like, it's a good scene, but that's super.
Yeah, because
super Bondy, especially because like it's the classic. He's underneath her, she's on top of him doing the thing, and the camera shot, and it was something I looked around and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, where it's the cleavage.
Right down her cleavage. Yeah. And I was like, that is far more Bond than it is Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about beforehand, there are some sexy women later in the franchise. Beautiful women.
And they're never
sexualized.
Yes. Even though, look, we'll talk about it more so in Mission Impossible 3. Even though they're given wardrobe that you're just like, oh my God.
You are stunning. Yeah.
But like, this is the first, and this is the only Mission Impossible film where they really sexualize its female character and they try to give it this like super flirty chemistry. And it doesn't work because as we see, the way that Ethan interacts with women is always in this very professional, respectful manner.
Yeah.
And this film I think we were seeing. Obviously, Mission Impossible was a success. It's not a surprise we got a sequel. No. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were also kind of looking at the fact that Pierce Brosnan's Bond movies were making bank.
Yeah, they were the king of the
So at this point, we had like GoldenEye, we'd had
World Is Not Enough.
Tomorrow Never Dies, and we had The World Is Not Enough.
And Die Another Day was to come.
And they were
later.
all massive successes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of was in the thinking
Totally.
of stuff.
And it just didn't work.
It didn't work.
It just didn't work.
So you know what? It was very surprising that we got a Mission Impossible 3.
Oh, very much so. I mean, financially though, $125 million budget,
Yeah.
$546 million.
Yeah,
box
okay.
office.
Yeah.
So it's still financially successful.
Yeah.
It's still very much talked about.
Yeah.
Like, Mission Impossible 2 has a notoriety around it.
Oh,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
I mean,
the
explosive finale.
we
like
get-
a
and we
fun,
get-
exciting.
And we get the woo classic thing of like the doves
The
flying,
doves.
except
We
here
do
it's
get the doves,
pigeons because it's Australia.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't have doves here, so we have grey doves, I guess.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
call them pigeons.
Pigeons.
And yeah, so obviously, yeah, you know, I do think the fist fight on the beach is very. I think it's cool. I think it's very
Yeah.
primal. It's very sort of like it's the first real glimpse we get to see of like an emotional side of Ethan Hunt, but it's perfected in Mission Impossible 3, which, you know what? Let's fucking go there.
Came six years.
6 years later, 2006.
It was I remember this was a big
Also-
deal when this was announced.
the directorial debut of J.J.
J.
Abrams,
Abrams.
who many would know now as the director directed The Force Awakens, The Rise of Skywalker,
Super 8.
which I think that's actually in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I
But
love
at this
Super 8.
point, J.J. Abrams
Was
had
was a
done
TV
predominant TV.
Alias
Had Alias started at this
Alias
point?
had started at this
Alias,
point.
so Alias and
Lost had just began.
and Felicity.
And Felicity. I am not over Felicity. I have never seen it.
Right,
Is what
yeah,
I'm saying. I'm not a.
Yeah,
I'm
Felicity.
aware of.
Felicity was like, it was like a comedy drama series.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where Kerry Russell, who was the lead of Felicity, cut her hair, and it absolutely just like people went bonkers
Berserk,
for
yeah.
it. It was wild. But it was also why Kerry Russell
is
in this
Mission
film.
Impossible 3. So 2006, J.J. Abrams' directorial debut, 71% critic score, 69% audience score. Nice.
should be higher.
So I'll say this to follow on from your outlandish statement there about it should be higher. Whatever movie franchise it is, especially ones that span decades longs in their production, everyone has their formative one.
Yes. Okay.
I was 11 years old when Mission Impossible 3 came out.
yeah.
I was obsessed with this movie.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the Mission Impossible I've seen the most
Okay.
in the whole franchise. I love the visual aesthetic. I love J.J. Abrams' sort of almost sci-fi look to it.
Yeah.
I love the technology in this film. I think the finale, I think the third act of Mission Impossible 3 from once they get to China is next to Fallout, which we will talk about in the next episode, the most exciting and driven by emotion finale in a Mission Impossible film ever.
Yeah.
I also think this is the most fun Tom Cruise is having with the role. This is where we get to see probably some of the most comedic
Yes.
parts of the Ethan Hunt character.
Yeah.
It to me is also like the most visceral. It's sort of the most brutal. However, there is one reason why this is. I struggle to say favorite because I love this franchise and it's hard to pick one. But one of my favorite aspects of this franchise is Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This film opens with Philip Seymour Hoffman holding a gun to Michelle Monaghan's head.
Who at this point we do not
don't
know
know.
who she is, but also
we
it's just,
find out fucking quick.
but
though.
also regardless of whether we know who she is or not, Philip Seymour Hoffman holding a gun to her head,
Yep.
and Tom Cruise clearly having a very emotional reaction.
Very emotional
Where,
reaction. They're tied up in chairs opposite each other.
She's got she's gagged. She
and
can't talk.
and Philip Seymour Hoffman's Davian is the bad guy.
Such a good
Just
villain name.
All we hear is, I'm going to count to 10. You're going to tell me where the rabbit's foot is. or I'm going to kill her. 10. And then it's Tom going like, no, I can tell you where the rabbit's foot is. Stalling. He's doing what an agent does.
Yeah.
He's stalling. He's trying to convince Davian
But
that he knows where. And Davian's like...
And he's getting... and he's just getting so much... Like,
as the countdown
like
happens,
he
nine, eight,
like
seven,
he realizes he's like, this guy's not to be fucked with.
I love when he gets... It's like around 6 or 5... He's like, you have to trust me. You have to trust me. He's like, I trust you, like you did on the plane. And then we're like,
so then you're
we
like,
know
so you'll see like
something's
something
coming.
other on a plane.
These guys have met before.
Yeah.
And then when he gets to like 3, the tears start coming down, and he's like, this guy's not fucking around. He's about to kill her.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's just, and the fact that like it ends on 1.
Ends on 1.
Don't hear the gunshot.
No.
But it's Ethan Hunt screaming, and then it cuts away. And then we go to...
We get
the party. It's the party.
We
next,
get we get the opening.
We get the of course. Sorry.
And I was like, this was the first time the opening sequence where I just went, holy shit! The cast of this, because it just goes Tom Cruise, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Bing Rames, Michelle Monaghan, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Maggie Q, Kerry Russell. Like you're
Billy
just like
Crudup, Simon Pegg, Lawrence Fishburne.
You're just like what the fuck is going on?
Massive.
Yeah, this is insane. And then it just goes into a party, and we're like, oh, okay, we'll just catch our breath now, shall we?
We're gonna catch our
Where we
breath.
realize Ethan Hunt getting married.
He's out of the game.
Yeah.
He's no longer a field agent, but we do find out he's teaching field agents.
Yes.
But he's telling people at the party, I fucking love this. He's like, I work for the Department of Transport. And they're like, oh, really? He's like, you can tell so much about what happened when a car breaks 200 miles down the road because of the ripples. And they're like, okay.
But then, you also see him like just being like super charming with everybody. And like, and every woman is just like, oh, I'd marry him.
All the wives and girlfriends are like, he's the best. My favorite bit is Michelle Monaghan and her friends are all talking about where they met. And they're like, what's the name of that lake? And he's lip reading from like 2 rooms across.
But the lip reading thing comes back in. But I love it. Yeah, how
Lake Wanaka.
And then she like looks and they just go, they can hear us, right? Yeah. Also, brief cameo from Aaron Paul.
Yes, which is so as Michelle Monaghan's brother.
Little baby brother, who's like, I'm so psyched that you're part of my family, man.
I love that they prelude that there is a line of dialogue talking about how drunk he is already. And he's like, he's fine. He's had a couple of beers. Like, please don't feed my brother more alcohol.
No, it's like with this nice little world build up that they have, that we get that like these two are like genuinely in love with each other.
100, and you feel it. Like the chemistry in this film between Tom Cruise and Michelle Monaghan is electric.
Yeah.
But then he gets the phone call.
Yes.
And he's won a holiday. And it's like, oh, okay, that's great. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, I've got to go buy ice.
Yeah.
I love that he just throws the ice. He's like, yeah, I got to go buy ice. Goes in and we see Billy Crudup. Who I love. I think Billy Crudup is such a great actor.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
Billy. He talks about how he's upset that Ethan's not in the field anymore.
Yeah.
But he's like, we need you to come back for something. And while you're on that holiday, why don't you take some photos?
Yeah. I love that there's just in the everyday world, in the Mission Impossible world, there are things that normal people would use that they would have no idea. Can you imagine if someone else picked up that camera?
Why isn't it taking?
And then it blows up in their face.
It's like, you are not Ethan Hunt. Self-destruct in 5 seconds.
And you'd be like, well, this thing like blows up. It's so fun.
Can I get a refund on this, please?
Why? It blew up in my hand.
But he gets it. And he finds out that Kerry Russell's character has been caught while on a mission.
And we learn
to extract her because she has information.
And we learn that like Ethan has trained her.
Yes.
And he's put her in the field probably
maybe
earlier than what people would like.
Was also forced by the IMF. Like, we need her in.
And he was very much like, I believe in you.
Yes.
Like I'm putting you in. Like they want you in the field quicker than usual, but also I have 100% faith in you.
And so she has important information about this thing called the rabbit's foot.
And when we first get to the extraction of her, we then are...
Well, he accepts the mission.
Well, he accepts the mission, and then we meet... So we're back with Luther.
No, we're not.
Isn't he in this one?
Luther's not in this one till the end.
Oh,
we get Jonathan Rhys-Meyers.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers and Maggie Q.
Yeah.
I love Maggie Q.
Because I was watching this movie, I was like, oh... sad that Luther's not in this one. Then I'm like, oh, that's right, he's at
Yeah.
the end.
So yeah, they're the new like field agents.
These are the field agents who are helping him.
And we briefly get the sense that Kerry Russell has found something more than what she should have.
100%.
Because as she's running, so she's like been, you assume she's been beaten.
She's been beaten, she's been interrogated, and she's had an explosive implanted into her head.
And she's then grabs Tom Cruise and basically says like, turn off your comms. She's like, I need to talk to you. She never gets to finish that because too many people are shooting at them.
Two people are shooting at them, so they've got to escape, which is one of the most exciting. Oh no, Luther is in that bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. No, my apologies, because
Yeah.
he's the one controlling the machine gun turrets. That's right.
Yeah.
But it's such an exciting. It's so explosive.
And one of the things that I learned that made me just go, this makes me love J.J. Abrams, it makes me love Tom Cruise, and it makes me love Kerry Russell.
Yeah.
So there's this, because Kerry Russell, she fucking slaps in this basically her one scene in this film.
Yeah, she's pretty much.
I was watching it going, she would be
so cool in like.
She'd be so cool in other films because
100%.
like she looks like
she kind of got to do it in The Americans, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Like kind of.
Yeah. But it was one of those things that we were talking about in I was like 0 to 100.
Yes. Yeah.
Where we spoke about Angelina Jolie and Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
Look, as feminine as she is, she looks like someone who can genuinely
Kick ass.
Yeah. Kerry Russell, the same thing.
Big time.
Despite the
Big
fact
time.
that she's, quite a petite frame.
Yep.
She looks like she would.
Well, like in I say this in the context of like as a secret agent, she looks like she's copped a beating and like not given the
information.
Had the shit beaten out of her.
Yeah.
And she still has, and you kind of go, that's a badass.
But the scene that made me kind of just go, this speaks to kind of everybody's mentality of like, as much as these films have special effects, they go for practical pretty much.
Yeah, as much as they can.
As much as they can. So there's the part where Tom Cruise is on one wall and she's on the other.
Yep.
And
yes.
He's like, throws her the gun.
Yep.
And it's the coolest shot. He throws her the gun, she catches it, and then turns and shoots.
Bang, bang, bang.
And initially they said, they were like, so what we'll do, they were like, Tom, pretend that you're throwing a gun. And Kerry, pretend that you're catching one. We'll CGI the gun being thrown, and then we'll just cut it back where you hold it. And Tom Cruise and Kerry Russell were both like, nah.
We can do
fuck that. We can do that. So they were like, all right, literally one take.
Fucking
did
so
it,
good.
threw the gun, caught it, shoot. And you watch, and so watching that scene, I was just like,
that's badass.
That's so cool. And that's so cool to know that they were just like, no, we're not doing CGI for this.
Yep.
And you can imagine Tom Cruise and Kerry Russell just being like, we'll get this done pretty quickly.
We fucking got this. And they've got this.
Yeah.
And then so they break out, they get picked up there.
And she keeps talking about like, she keeps saying how much like you've got to.
I need to tell you
something. Yeah. But she's also like, but please don't don't let me die, because they're trying to get because they basically, Davian sets it off.
Yes.
But you don't know that he sets it off. Because all of a sudden she just starts like getting freaking out.
Well, because they get picked up in a helicopter.
Yeah.
So now not only have we had this explosive
shootout,
gunshot, shootout escape, we now get a helicopter chase
through
a
giant
windmill
farm. So you're just like, something's going to get hit.
Where missiles are getting the opening. Oh my God. It is just fucking wild.
And this is also
so much
and this
fun.
is like just J.J. Abrams being like, I know how to.
I can direct
choreograph
action.
Yeah.
And it is so exciting. And so she starts ringing. She's like,
did you watch Alias?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah,
of
like
Alias.
you see, watching this, you kind of just go, this is why
right?
Alias.
And like, even with the Lost pilot episode of Lost, like all the shit that goes on in that. And then so we've got this, and she's losing it. Like she's talking about the pain in her head, getting out of her head. They pretty much go like, it's an electrical charged one. We need to defibrillate her so the electrical charge blows up, and then defibrillate her again
to come back to life.
Bring back her,
which is
telegraphed and set up very well.
It's quite nice to be like, this is going to come back. Yeah.
So then you go, just as they're about to, so they're getting chased in a helicopter that's getting missiles blown at it. They're trying to charge a defibrillator.
And he's like throwing off other heat signal to like make the missiles hit that. And then they're
shooting out,
and they're counting down the defibrillator. And in your mind, you're thinking, "There's no way that we're killing off Kerry Russell in the first like 15 minutes of this film."
Nah,
so when it gets down to like 3 seconds, and the thing goes off in her head, and to her,
because obviously it blows her
up
brain.
Yeah, but it doesn't
the way
like
her eyes go.
and one like goes to the other side, and it's just and you just see like Ethan just like everything just crumble for him.
And this is where this aspect of the franchise begins. And I think it is one of the most powerful parts of the franchise is that Tom Cruise is so good at bringing a genuine emotion to the action.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you do the same thing. I always think about like sometimes what junket questions I would ask.
Oh, yeah.
And I would genuinely ask Tom Cruise, I'm like, when you're doing not just that same type, but when you're doing these massive stunts where your safety is paramount, like we need to make sure Tom Cruise doesn't die.
Yeah.
How much in your brain while you're going through all the logistics of it all are you still thinking about the emotion that Ethan Hunt has to show in this moment?
Yeah.
And that's a moment where I go, Ethan Hunt, actually, there is so much emotion behind this character and it gets fucking crazier for him as the films go on.
Yeah.
But now we've introduced a wife. Now we've introduced a protege that has died on his watch.
Yeah.
You kind of go, fuck, you be sad.
And you're also like,
and then he does it.
And then you're also like, oh, great. And we're only 20 minutes into this film.
Where do we go from here? Oh, I know where we go.
Where we go?
We introduce the bad guy. We fucking get more Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he is so...
Man, watching this, I was just like,
He is such...
We was like, you know, it's like he was going through whatever he was going through. He had addiction issues. But you just sort of think there's a reason why everybody that worked with him or knew his work were just like, he is genuinely like one of, like, he is one. I think he was recently named the greatest actor of the 21st century.
It's no shot. And it was his diverse range too. So I guess, I mean, for those who don't know, Philip Seymour Hoffman passed away maybe like 7 or 8 years ago now. It was during the release of one of the last Hunger Games films.
Yeah. Because he'd passed away by the time...
Because they filmed them back to back.
Yeah, so by the time Mockingjay Part 2 came out, he had passed away.
So,
he died of a drug overdose.
It was an overdose, and it was very sad, but his diverse range of films, the fact that he could do this, he could do a villain in a major blockbuster action franchise, he could do the Hunger Games franchise, like a young adult novel, and bring so much like grounded realism to it as well. But then you get him in like with everything he did with Paul Thomas Anderson.
Magnolia,
Boogie Nights, fucking The Master.
Yeah.
Him and The Master is like arguably one of his best. Punk Drunk Love.
And then he did a Most Wanted Man,
which is another incredible
also,
film. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
Along Came Polly.
Hilarious.
He's so funny in that
movie. He's also a really funny, like really great comedic actor.
And the thing that you see in this is obviously we get the villain side of things, but then when Tom Cruise has to impersonate him, you then have Philip Seymour Hoffman playing it really light.
Yes.
And it's just like, and you genuinely believe that Tom Cruise is inhabiting him.
So it's one of the most fun things in the film. They corner Damien in a bathroom because they got to steal his identity to have the selling of the rabbit's foot go through. Like they want to be there to get the rabbit's foot, basically. And he's buying it, and it's basically it's another world-ending biological thing. And they corner him in there, and they have to scan his face. Maggie Q has to go through and scan his face.
I'm also just going to say Maggie Q.
Incredible.
I like Maggie Q, I feel like never got the action career that she deserved.
Sure, totally. Yeah.
She is incredibly capable. And I will just say, there's a moment where she steps out of
the car,
this fucking sexy orange sports car, in this very high dress. Yeah, she is unbelievably stunning.
Yeah, she's beautiful. And then again, beautiful, stunning, badass.
But it's but even though the dress that she's like, it's never done. It's like such completely the opposite of number
it's
2.
always contextually in the film too. Like they're supposed to be dresses that catch people, the people that they want attention. Call
because like the intention is as she's walking around. So her makeup case is a camera. So she's taking a photo of each side of Philip Seymour Hoffman's face. So as that photo is then being sent to the face machine, it can make a mask of Philip Seymour Hoffman, and then when they make it and they put it on Tom Cruise and they like press it in,
it looks such a great shot.
So good. And then they need
his voice, and
he's got to say this
Davian guy is a ghost.
Yeah.
No agency knows anything about him.
Yeah.
So there's no recording of his voice that they can make the voice changer for. So
they got to say. So it's like this really
the line on him,
and they say they've got to say this particular phrase, which obviously
like has all the
syllables,
and vowels, letters of the alphabet and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's so good because they corner him when he gets wine spilled.
Well, Maggie Q purposely like hits him with, and then she starts like apologizing in Chinese.
Yes,
and basically being like, "Oh, I'm so clumsy," and he's like, he's just like. He's angry.
He's angry, but
he's like not a problem. So he goes cleans himself up.
Tom Cruise dressed as Ethan Hunt dressed as Davian with the mask on, stands behind him in the mirror. So that's just like
I love that he's like angrily washing his hands and he looks at him and then he's almost just like looks at him too long and then goes, like okay,
what do you want?
Yeah.
And then holds the gun to him because like you need to say this line and he starts saying he's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, he's so exhausted. He's just like
he's exhausted, but he does it in that sense of like he's like, okay, I'll do this, but I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah,
like I know so many fucking powerful people that whatever you do to me right now, I'm going to do to you tenfold worse.
Yeah, which he does.
So, and they get it, and it's a great scene. It's a very tense scene.
Well, because the bodyguard comes in. They haven't been able to get rid of.
It hasn't uploaded fully yet.
So he's got to like, they're like, you've got 30 seconds. So he's like washing his hands, looking at the bodyguard. The bodyguard's
then he
like,
starts like coughing, and he's
the bodyguard's like, are you going to say something?
And then
the shot when then when he speaks and it briefly crack. It's so good.
So fucking
all the while,
good.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers is behind the bathroom door,
holding Davian's unconscious body. Yeah, it's so good. But then they get the unconscious body out. They escape through the floor of the sports car in the sewers and stuff, and then they blow up. I
love how he's like doing. She's like, it's such a nice car.
Blow it up, and now
everyone assumes that Davian is dead. Yeah.
Then we get the plane sequence, which Ethan is now.
This is the first time, and I don't know if I feel like it's one of the only times where he really
gets angry,
and almost like threatens the life of the person, like kind of quite haphazardly.
Yes, yeah.
Because everyone else,
it's not the calculated Ethan we know.
Because everyone else, like in like Gross Protocol, where he's like, where we know someone wants revenge, and he's like, the mission is not revenge. Yeah. You will get your revenge, but when I say so. So it's kind of funny to see him in this one where he's the one who's like,
but this is almost like it's a lesson he learned, as well, because he almost fucks up the entire mission because of it. Because obviously he's so angry, and it's because Davian's also like
pushing his buttons.
Yeah, like I killed your friend.
Yeah,
like I put the fucking explosive in her brain, and I killed her.
And because we know that
I'm gonna kill you,
and because that Ethan, we're aware that Ethan obviously had quite an affection for her.
Yeah.
Which is when Ving Rhames sort of brings up where he's like, if I don't ask the question about you two sleeping together, no one will.
Yeah.
So I need to know what the relationship was. And he's so like offended, but he's also just like, yeah, it's a fair question.
True.
And when we get that there's been nothing sexual between him and Kerry Russell's character, it was purely protege.
Yeah.
And he was just so proud of her.
Yeah.
Because he genuinely loves his wife.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we see that throughout the series, the way that he protects her.
Think about her. Yeah. We forgot to mention the last one. We also get the introduction of Benji as Simon Pegg's character, who
like
now
Benji
is a staple of the
Benji
franchise.
in Mission Impossible 3 is kind of like you wouldn't have been surprised if we didn't see him again.
No, 100%.
Because basically every character that feels like they're a main player in the Mission Impossible films don't continue on.
Yes.
Like it would have been cool for Maggie Q to be in number 4.
Very much so, yeah.
But she's not. We just assume that they go on to different missions. They go to different, yeah.
So, so we get Benji, who's now he works at IMF, but he's a tech guy as well.
He's a tech guy, yeah.
And he's helping out. He hasn't passed his field exam, so that's why he is in the office still.
And he obviously there was obviously a great reaction to him in
big time
3 that they were like, oh, we'll put him in 4.
And I think him and Tom get along really well. I think they're really good friends. I think they have really good friendship chemistry.
And they probably were like, it worked in 4, we'll continue
keep it going.
And you can see like the chemistry between them is like,
I love the Benji Ethan relationship. Where Luther and Ethan is very heartfelt.
I feel like Luther
Benji and Ethan
I feel like Luther keeps Ethan accountable, whereas Benji, it's almost like
Benji is the comedic sidekick,
and it's almost like Ethan's got to be the one to keep Benji accountable.
Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah. But then Benji's also the guy who's like, Ethan's like, Benji will be like, oh, so I guess we're just gonna have to drive over here and jump off this cliff.
He's like, that shouldn't be too.
And then Ethan's like, yeah. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
and like, oh my god.
And Benji's always just like, I get to wear a mask, and they're like, no, you don't. And he's like, fine, no mask then, because he just wants to be. He wants to do all the fun stuff.
Spoiler alert! Finally happens in the later film, and it's so pleasing. Yeah. But then so they've got Davian. The plane scene is so intense. He's literally going to cut enough ropes that Davian falls off the plane to be like, where's the rabbit's foot?
Yeah.
And
I do love in that scene where you can see, even though Davian keeps it together
and usually in control,
and he doesn't yell or scream, but you can also very much see that he's like, oh, I'm actually terrified.
He was also, it's not just terrified. He was like, I didn't predict this.
Yeah,
This is not something I thought.
I thought I'd be able to intimidate this guy just with my presence alone. He's not. But now that he's like, but now that you fucked with me, I'm absolutely going to come for you.
He can be just as vindictive, which is fantastic. Yeah. Which then leads to a scene where we see the full scale of Davian's scope and power when they're transporting Davian and they get ambushed on the bridge.
Yeah,
which is there are drones shooting missiles, helicopters full of men with machine guns, civilians everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And we get one of my favorite. This is to me like another
the shot.
Another iconic shot of Ethan's trying to get a machine gun out of the car. The drone is coming to blow the car up. He just gets out of the car in time, but the missile blows him and slams him into the side of another car. Iconic, awesome shot.
Yeah,
but Davian escapes. He gets taken away, and then it becomes about like, okay, well, shit. How do we how do we get the rabbit's foot?
And also, how do we get the rabbit's foot from Davian? And also,
how do we stop him from getting it now? Sorry.
And also, like, I've also very much upset Davian.
Yeah.
So now we've got that to contend with.
Yeah.
And he contends with it by basically going, oh, I'm going to kidnap your wife.
So he pretty much goes like, he's like, I think you're capable of finding the rabbit's foot.
Yeah.
So now you have 48 hours to do it or I'm going to kill your wife.
Yeah.
So he's like, shit, I got to get to her.
Because this is,
only to find out she's already been kidnapped.
Because this is like, up to this point, like John Voight, fine.
Sure.
Doug Ray Scott, meh. Philip Seymour Hoffman, like, and even the next few films, like Philip Seymour Hoffman is like genuinely like the most
intimidating,
threatening,
menacing, threatening villain of the franchise. Yeah. We will give props when props is due to another villain who comes up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's hard to deny that Philip Seymour Hoffman is the most impactful villain
because he
makes it personal.
And it's the personal side of things.
He not only is like, I'm going to become rich by giving a terrorist the rabbit's foot.
Yeah. So
but I'm going to make Ethan Hunt's life a living hell while I do it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's what's fucked up about it. And that's why. And Philip Seymour Hoffman gets it, but he plays it in such a nonchalant way.
Yeah. Which is more terrifying.
Which is why he's like, I'm gonna find your girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hurt her in front of you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill you in front of her. Like, it's just like, what the fuck, dude? You're a menace. You are psycho.
Yeah.
And it's so great.
It's so
great. But then he finds, so he's already kidnapped Julia.
Yeah.
And then he goes, you have 48 hours to bring the rabbit's foot to me or I'm gonna kill her.
Yeah.
and which leads them to Shanghai because they find the rabbit's foot in Shanghai. I love the distraction that's used of the baseballs getting shot.
Oh, so good.
Security guards on all these high rises, and then they shoot these baseballs, which allows Ethan to swing across the building.
I love when he's
running.
Oh, but when he's like drawing, so he's drawing the buildings, and then he's like doing the math.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, no, and then they're like, you've got like one chance to do that. And he's like, yeah. And then and then I'll jump off. And they're like, you have to pull your parachute at like, if you don't do it at this particular point, you're too late. And he's like, yeah, no, I'll do. And he's like, yeah, because you'll be there to help me. And you're like,
so fucking good.
Jesus Christ.
So fucking good.
It's so good. But yeah, when he's
that shot of him running on top of the building and then jumping, and you see the Shanghai, like the nighttime Shanghai skyline,
and the fact that the roof is like
slanted down,
really slanted down, and you're just like, how is he going to stop? And he just stops enough. Like,
I mean,
but that's when you just go, oh, this is when Tom Cruise really decided to like put his life in danger. Yeah,
and it looks great.
It looks great.
But he gets the rabbit's foot. And he gives it to Davian.
Yeah.
But then Davian's like, fucking, I still hate ya. Puts the explosive in his head.
Yeah.
And then we get the scene.
Yeah.
We get the count to 10 scene.
Yeah.
Which to me is one of the most iconic moments in the whole franchise.
And now the
intensity between Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise in that moment.
And now the count to 10 scene has the added emotionality of us being like, oh, we really like Julia.
Yeah.
Like she's a genuinely sweet character.
Yep.
She like the fact that she's like, there's that moment where she's like slightly suspicious of Ethan.
Yeah.
Because he's like always going away on like transport trips.
Yeah.
And the last one he comes back, obviously, because Kerry Russell's dead. He's very like,
he's a bit hollowed out.
And she's like, what's going on? And then how she says to him, like, I need to know that this is real.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I promise you it is. And then they have their little impromptu wedding, which is really, really sweet.
Which is sweet, yeah.
But how we know that she trusts him implicitly.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
And you're just like, that's love.
And that's love.
Yeah.
That's true love.
So now
which makes that scene
even more hard because we're just like, oh, I mean, at the beginning of the film, you were already like, a woman having a gun put to her head is like enough to be...
Yeah, it's terrible. It's
awful, to be distressing because we can see that Tom Cruise is like reacting to it in a certain way.
With it well.
Now that we know it's his wife.
Yeah. You kind of sit there and go...
And you're like... And then also because you know that Davian, you're like, oh, Davian is going to do it. This isn't going to be some like fake out thing where it's like...
No.
Oh, he'll save him at the last minute. Because you're like... Yeah. So the fact that he shoots her and for that moment, you're like... Holy fuck, you've killed his wife.
You've killed his wife, and then Davian also remarks that he's like, and he'll still tell me where the rabbit's foot is.
Yeah.
Don't worry, he'll tell me where the rabbit's foot is.
And it's like, because I remember seeing this in the movies.
Yeah.
And I remember being like,
oh,
well, you've just killed. I mean, you killed Kerry Russell early, so it's not.
This wasn't out of the realm.
But it's also like, right? But I really thought we were going to stick with this one,
and then we weren't. But not only is that not only is that like a massive twist reveal.
Yeah.
Another reveal just so happens to bring forward the fact that Billy Crudup is not who he seems.
No.
And he has been on the inside this whole time.
So this whole time, the film has been playing it that Lawrence Fishburne, who is the new director.
Yeah, he is the secretary of the IMF.
He's the one that's been like, basically, he's been doing the villainous stuff.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like, maybe we shouldn't.
We haven't even talked about the fact that Lawrence Fishburne's in this movie.
We shouldn't trust Lawrence Fishburne. Tom Cruise has brought in. Lawrence Fishburne is like...
And Lawrence Fishburne doesn't like Ethan Hunt.
No.
And doesn't like his tactics.
Yeah. He's like, you're very reckless. And he's like, and a lot of the time that things, like... a lot of the time things happen to you, you're like, it's kind of like...
It's destructive and it's chaotic and it's not the way the IMF should be run.
So we believe that Lawrence Fishburne is a villain.
Yes, because he's trying to stop our Ethan
working
working
from the inside.
Yeah.
And Billy Crudup, comes in and is like, can I just have a moment with him? I want to just... And he basically is talking about how disappointed he is.
Yeah.
But as he's doing it...
Because it's the real reveal before that as well. That is, so we now go like, is Billy Crudup the bad guy?
We think Billy Crudup's the bad guy, but then he is...
He brings in...
But he starts silently mouthing things to make Ethan... To help Ethan.
Gives him the address.
So then we're like, wait, So Lawrence Fishburne is the villain, and Billy Crudup is who is the savior.
Yes.
But then the film then flips it, and you go,
Yes.
Billy Crudup saved you, Ethan, because
Sorry,
he
we
wanted
should say that scene happens before the count to 10 scene.
But we're like But Billy Crudup, who we think is the savior, then reveals himself to be the villain because he only saved Ethan to get the rabbit's foot. It's like, oh my God. Look, I know that probably sounded super convoluted, but it's not as bad.
Well,
as
his
that.
whole thing is that like he wants to use the rabbit's foot to ultimately stop wars or to start wars where IMF can win easy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should say.
So it's like,
So it's fucked up.
But now we're aware that we're like, okay, Lawrence Fishburne isn't the bad guy. Billy Crudup's the bad guy, and he can probably get away with it.
But Ethan manages to escape as he does, and we get this insane chase scene. Not even chase scene, it's just running because he has to get to Julia. Yeah. Because he finds out that it wasn't Julia who was shot in the head. No. It was another woman they had a Julia mask
so it was like one of the right-handers of Davian, who we briefly meet
encounters earlier on in the film.
And she's had the mask on. So you just go, okay, so you're like, oh, Julia's not dead. Yeah. But we're also but she's still in danger.
Ethan's had a fake rabbit's foot this whole time.
Yes, yeah.
So, because he's trying to do his classic sneaky little Ethanisms. And then Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise running through Shanghai, and the way J.J. Abrams films it.
Yeah.
It's exhilarating shit. And he's got Benji in his ear telling him where to go and how far he needs to run and stuff. But when he gets a straight stretch of run.
And it's one shot. And you just like...
Across a bridge, the camera crane pulls out and goes... Vroom.
And you just like... You just go...
It's wild.
And you just go, Tom Cruise, who isn't probably in his...
He would be late 40s.
Late 40s, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
So 2006, 2023, 61.
Early mid-40s. Early to mid-40s.
Yeah.
Early to mid-40s.
Yeah.
Running like
he's 12 years old.
Like a professional fucking athlete.
Yeah.
To get to Julia.
He's in incredible shape in these films.
He looks great
in these films. There's a stunt that he does in Rogue Nation that baffles my mind.
Oh, yeah. I know.
On the pole?
Yeah. Well,
wild. We'll talk about that more next episode. But that, I was watching that just going, you're insane.
Oh, big time.
And that's big time. That's him doing it.
Oh, fucking hell. The run is so good. And the way J.J. Abrams shoots is great. But he gets to Julia and frees her. But he also was like, I've got this explosive in my head.
And he's like, they've detonated it.
I need you to kill me and bring me back. And also... While I'm dead, people might come. You need to learn how to shoot this gun.
And the thing that I really appreciate about this is like it gives like I love you can like he's trying to figure everything out as his brain is probably like throbbing.
Yeah.
And he's just like pull the clip, do that. He's like point and shoot, just point and shoot. And then
distressed acting is so good.
And this is where like the comedy side of things comes into it. But then he's like,
point and shoot. Don't point it at me.
And then he's like, I don't know you. He's like, I know you'll bring me back.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's like, but you got to do this. But the thing that he then puts the
paddle.
But then I love that he takes them briefly out. And he's like, I love you.
Yes.
And you can just see her go, and you can just see her going, oh, we're going to talk about this later.
Yeah. Like
because she's like, you don't work for the transport company.
This is not a transport conference like you told me.
She's like, I've just had a gun pointed to my head.
Fucking shot of him getting defibrillated and the paddle pop, his jaw clenching, and they shatter.
Yeah.
But then obviously he's now dead, but he's not getting blown up.
No. Yeah.
And then villains come in, so she has to kill the villains. One of them being Billy Crudup.
But I do love when you can there's this brief moment where like she's terrified. Yeah. But you can see almost just like this like wave washes over her where because she sees.
Yes.
So she bends down to get the reflection. And I was just like, Ethan's rubbing off me.
Yeah,
now.
I was going to say, that's something
like you can just see this brief moment of her being like, I get to shoot a fucking
trust these instincts.
Yeah.
And she kills the villains. She kills Billy
Crudup. I love she kills Billy Crudup. And then when Ethan wakes up, he's like, you did that?
Yeah.
And he's like, good job. Good job. Like you killed the big bad guy.
And then they live happily. Oh, well, and then there's the confrontation then with Davian, in which he's then hit by a
car.
Oh my God, that scene is so fucking good and so brutal.
I love how it's just quite quick.
Yes, and I like that.
They're punching each other, blah blah blah. Then they go out into the street, and then as they're on the ground, and Tom Cruise sees a car coming, so he rolls over, and then the car rolls over Tom Cruise, but hits Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's just like it's done. And then Tom Cruise is just like, okay, we're done. Yeah,
that's finished.
Yeah.
And then they all go to IMF and literally live happily ever after.
Well, we assume they do.
We assume they do.
Yeah.
Because 5 years later.
5 years.
In 2011.
Because Mission Impossible 3.
Yes.
So we will say this movie made decent money.
Yes, sorry. I was just thinking about that.
But
quickly. Yeah.
Because it didn't make as much as Mission Impossible 2.
Sad.
But because it was critically better received.
So $150 million, but room at $186 million budget.
Right.
Made $398 million worldwide.
Yeah.
So cost more, didn't make as much.
But because
Which sucks because it's so fucking great.
But because it was critically so well received.
Yes.
The studio were like, we'll give it another chance.
Shot.
And my God. Did they give it a chance with Ghost Protocol?
Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
So the first film that now is no longer taking numbers.
No, the first subtitled film with Ghost Protocol.
Yeah,
2011.
Yeah,
94% critic score with 249 reviews.
Jesus,
76 for the audience popcorn.
Lower than I would have expected.
I demand more respect for the Mission Impossible franchise. These movies are fun. They're exciting.
But you know what?
Energetic. They're action-packed. They're charming. They're fucking great.
This is one of those ones where I'm sorry, critics got it right.
Yeah, I absolutely
94?
This movie's fucking brilliant.
94 is wild.
I'm saying this movie's brilliant, and it's nowhere even near close to the top of my favorite Mission Impossible films.
That's the thing.
That says something.
That's the thing. It's so weird when you're just like, oh, this might be like my fourth favorite one. Or,
so it sucks. Like, no.
You're like, no.
It's great. There's just somehow they get better.
Yeah.
They get better and better.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Like,
I'm sorry.
To me, the next movies are pretty much.
Yeah, when we get to the Christopher McQuarrie
they're pretty pitch perfect.
Because this is the last one we'll talk about in this part, and then part 2 of this behemoth finale is the McQuarrie era. But
this was originally they wanted J.J. Abrams to do this one.
Okay, interesting.
And he could he couldn't commit for whatever.
Super 8
was around this time. He still had TV.
Yeah. Lost was
but he was like, I will stay on as a producer.
Yes.
And Brad Bird hadn't done
this is
live action debut. Yeah, because Brad Bird, The Incredibles,
which is my favorite Pixar film,
and which is like one of the greatest action films of all time,
blockbuster action films.
It's so good. Yeah.
But yeah, 94% definitely agree with. More respect's needed from the audiences, and much like the other films, once again, IMF do a mission, it goes wrong, everyone's disavowed. Got to prove your innocence. This time in Dubai. So like it's one of those ones where it's like they take on the globe-trotting aspect of this film. It starts in Russia.
And I feel like I could be completely wrong. I feel like this was almost where Fast and Furious got like inspiration from like going super worldwide.
So Mr. Worldwide. Fast 5 came out in 2010, and that was that Brazil, like it started going around.
And
Fast
a little bit. 5 is obviously it's probably like the best of the Fast. But outside of the Fast and Furious, Fast 5 is just like a genuinely great action movie as well.
Film.
Like it is, like it was when you just went,
I would agree.
Oh, wow.
This was an era where it started becoming like movies that were about international espionage.
Yeah.
Were actually going to more outward locations rather than London and Paris and Europe. But they were going to Brazil and that they're going to Dubai and Russia and this.
Yeah.
So like it was fun. They were going, I don't want to say exotic locations, but they were just going to different places.
Yeah.
Because this starts in Russia.
Yes.
We don't know why. But Tom Cruise is in a Russian prison.
Yeah.
And we go, sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. He's probably done something. Benji's breaking him out.
I love the way that Benji breaks him out.
And he's about to get home scot-free and he goes, I gotta go get someone.
I gotta go get someone. I gotta go get Bogdan.
I gotta go get Bogdan. The interaction between Ethan and Benji through the cameras
and
is so funny.
And who like obviously Benji can see Ethan. Ethan can't see Benji.
him.
But I love how he's like, go.
He's like, open this door.
And then Benji's just like, no. And then the fact that then Tom Cruise just puts his hand and it's almost like, I can do this all day.
I'm not going to be moving.
And then he's like,
I know exactly
and
what
then he's
you're
like,
saying
oh,
right now.
fine.
And then he gets bonged in it, which is such a fun prison breakout.
Because he's
scene.
like opening
Great
every
action
single
scene.
prison door for everyone to just go ham on each other.
So the prisoners will fight the guards and
Tom Cruise can
will
kind of
get
just
away.
like slip through. And then Benji also puts Ain't That a Kick in the Head, which is also like a way for them to know the timings of when to explode something.
Which is fucking awesome because underneath it's just Paula Patton.
Yeah, but it's just a great song because you're just like, oh, it's literally about people getting kicked in the head. Yeah.
Actually, I said something in Mission Impossible 3 which wasn't right. Obviously, Luther's in Mission Impossible 3. He's not in this one until the end.
Yes.
That's where Luther's not in. I got that. I've watched.
Yeah, we've watched
lot of
like
Mission Impossible in the
we've
last
watched
few
them
days.
quite consistently.
So Luther's not in this one until the end.
Yeah.
So that's the
So Benji's in the field. He's like, I passed my field agency.
Exam.
Paula
Patton's here. Jeremy Renner pops up, but he is an analyst.
Yeah, he's an analyst.
But is there more going on?
Possibly.
We will find out.
And then we also learned that Josh Holloway,
Yes.
who is a Lost alumni,
Yes.
who I always thought was going to be a bigger star than what he was.
Yeah, I just don't know if he did enough stuff.
No, he didn't do
Like, that's
enough
the
stuff.
thing.
And he's
But
not in this very much.
He's not in this very
But
much.
he's another agent.
Well, that's the cold opening of the film, I guess, right? Like,
so we get Josh Holloway.
we are thrown into that action.
Yeah.
It's just like, here you go.
Yeah.
He's running away from people. And
So
then he
Josh
gets assassinated
Holloway gets assassinated. So immediately
by
we learn.
Léa Seydoux.
So we immediately learn Léa Seydoux is a villain that we should be on guard for.
Yep.
We then learn that Josh Holloway has a relationship with Paula Patton.
Yep.
So not only personal but professional.
Yep.
So she's also she's like, I've lost a partner in the field and I've lost a partner in life.
Yeah.
So she's devastated and she's also like, I want to take Léa Seydoux down.
I'm taking this bitch down.
And they're also like, look, we will allow you to take Sabine Moreau, which is her name.
Yeah.
We will allow you to take her down. But you're taking her down when we say so because we need her for information.
We need her for the mission because there's going to be a transaction for nuclear missile launch codes and for diamonds.
Yes.
So she's bringing the diamonds.
She's
buying the codes. No.
So she's bringing the launch codes.
She's bringing the launch
she
codes.
wants she only deals in diamonds.
Diamonds, yeah.
So
which is cool. I like that.
Yeah. So then their whole thing is like, all right, we somehow need to.
Yeah. So there's a guy named Cobalt.
Yes.
Which they're like, is this the guy who has the codes?
The codes.
So they go to the Kremlin to find out more information, which is such a fun, exciting moment.
Sequence.
So fucking good.
That wall sequence
they
is,
use like
I
a
think,
projector.
I feel like this might be one of my top in the whole
gadget things.
This
as well.
is just so cool. And it looks
awesome.
It looks awesome, especially when the guards walk past it and push it, and you just go, oh my god! Like the
special effects
in this
incredible.
are insane. So
Incredible.
they're in the Kremlin, and they need to get into this room to get the.
So they're trying to find more information. Who Cobalt is. Yeah,
and they basically set up this like hologram.
Yeah, it's weird
of the hallway,
which has an eye tracker for the person sitting at the desk.
So the person,
no matter where they move,
it
looks the same.
So the person sitting at the desk just thinks he's looking at a hallway.
Yeah.
They've brought in this hologram projector, so where they keep moving forward, but the projector stays at the same photo,
line, right? Yeah.
And then they've got this water dripping sound effect. So it makes him kind of
look around.
So as he's looking around, they move closer to the door.
Yeah.
Describing it doesn't do it any justice.
It's so exciting.
If you haven't seen Ghost Protocol, shame on you.
Go see it first.
If you want to watch it again, we implore you to do so because the rewatchability of this thing is insane.
It is so much fun.
It is so much fun.
But then they get the info.
Yeah.
They escape the Kremlin, and then the Kremlin blows up.
And naturally, because they were there,
last ones there,
they get told, you blew up the Kremlin, you're disavowed.
You're disavowed, guys. Again.
But now
stop doing these naughty things.
But this time it's like you're disavowed to the point where the CIA have enlisted Ghost Protocol, which means
the whole IMF
Yes.
has been disbanded.
Yeah. So like
And who's
usually
running
when
the CIA.
usually when they're disavowed,
Yeah.
the IMF is still there.
the IMF 's
it's just
the
the agents
agents.
are disavowed. This time,
The entire
IMF is disavowed. So Tom Cruise is like,
We've activated Ghost Protocol. It's such a cool.
so
cool way to call it.
Ethan Hunt is like, okay, it's literally just me, Benji,
Yep.
Paula Patton,
Yep.
and Brant, our analyst, played by Jeremy Renner,
Yep.
who
Tom Wilkinson is the secretary.
little uncredited
No,
cameo.
I love that they do these little uncredited cameo. It almost seems like it's a point of privilege to be like,
Yeah.
you are the IMF secretary.
Yeah.
You are the director of the IMF.
Yeah. So and Tom Wilkinson is like, we are disavowed, but if for some reason you happen to get the information, I'm not going to stop
we
you.
can save the world.
Assassins do stop them,
Very much so.
and Tom Wilkinson, just as quickly as he's introduced, is taken right
killed.
out. Car crashes, and this is where Jeremy Renner and Tom Cruise have to be like, look, we need to work together.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like you.
yeah.
Like Tom Cruise is like, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
And
he's
Jeremy,
like, I don't think you're just an analyst.
yeah. And Jeremy Renner has a lot of secrets cooped up.
Big lot of secrets cooped up. More so one that he is currently fighting
Yeah.
to help the IMF.
Because we are under the belief
Yeah.
that, as Benji puts it, he's like, I'm really sorry that you and Julie didn't work out.
yes.
So at this point, we believe that Julia and Ethan have divorced.
split up. Yeah.
And it's perfectly understandable to believe that because he's always said this line of work isn't for people in relationships.
Yep.
And because he was brought back into it in number 3, you can imagine that she was like, this is not the life I signed
This is
up
not
for.
exactly.
So it's a way of writing out Michelle Monaghan
Yep.
but still being respectful to her character
Yep.
and being believable in the grand scheme of like, yeah, a marriage wouldn't work with this line of work.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the first part of the Julia story we hear.
Yes. Very much so.
And then ultimately it becomes something else, and it has a lot to do with Jeremy Renner.
Lots to do with Jeremy Renner, who has these. The secretive nature comes and goes very well in the plot.
And I
Because
like-
it always hits about to be a reveal.
Yeah.
And then their hands are forced to go
Pivot
do
into somewhere
something,
else, yeah.
which I really like.
And I do like that Jeremy Renner, in the same way that I think Tom Cruise has this kind of comedic ability.
Yep.
Jeremy Renner brings a lot of comedic stuff to this.
A lot of looks.
Like
because
because he's very like, this isn't going to work. Like
Yeah.
we've got how he's like he was like, it's 12 minutes to door knock, you guys. We've got to do this.
He's the one, yeah. He's like, I haven't been on enough impossible missions with
yeah.
these guys yet to know that they'll probably pull it off.
Yeah.
So he's the one who's like, no, we need to use the time that we have to do it. Whereas like Ethan's obviously there being like, well, I've got to scale the fucking Burj Khalifa.
Yeah, which we might as well talk
we
about
may as
that.
well go. Not a lot happens, but you can go watch the film. But we got to talk about the stuff we want to talk about.
This Burj Khalifa sequence, apart from him scaling it,
Yep.
that whole sequence of like changing the hotel room numbers,
the
doing the meetings.
They want to do the face masks, but it breaks. So they go, well, let's hope that she hasn't met this
So
buyer
yeah, so
yet.
they hope that the buyer selling the codes hasn't met Sabine buying the diamonds, and
Yeah.
we hope that Sabine hasn't, vice versa.
Yeah.
Thankfully for the IMF team,
Yeah.
they haven't met, so they're able to do the swap where they get the launch codes. The launch codes, as Jeremy Renner has a device in his eye where he takes a photo of it, it then goes through to a
It
suitcase.
emails a copy, yeah.
And we're like,
faxes, I guess.
So yeah, faxes it. So that way he gets the codes, they get the diamonds, and then Benji can pick the diamonds up to give to
Yes.
the actual Sabine, because
It's so well done.
It's so it sounds so convoluted,
Yeah.
but it absolutely works when you watch it.
But-
a part of me is still slightly confused how they do the hotel thing with the rooms.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well,
I feel like they're-
so. This is where the scaling the Burj Khalifa comes in.
Yeah.
because Benji's problem is that he cannot access the servers remotely.
Yeah,
They need to change something in the server room to do that.
yeah,
They cannot access the server room
yeah.
from inside the hotel. Well, there's only one way. If you can't go under it, you can't go over it.
You got to go through it.
You got to go through the window.
Or you got to go up. You got to go up the Burj Khalifa.
And through the window.
And I love how you can, when he's doing it, you can just see Tom Cruise. You can see Ethan like just putting it all together in his head, being like, okay, and then they're like, it's 11 up and 7 across. And he's like,
so it's also telegraphed earlier on because when they're packing, so when they've been disbanded, they go to like an old hideout where there's all this gear they have, and Benji picks up the gloves.
yeah.
And we don't know what they're for.
I
And then
love
Hugo-
the technology in this film.
I wanted to bring this up because if you go back and watch The Incredibles and Brad Bird's even filmography, even stuff like Tomorrowland, you look at the way he uses technology in the stories.
Yeah.
This is very much a Brad Bird movie.
Yeah.
The way like you got like hologram tables that come out and they're like playing around on these. It's awesome. And
When
then
he puts the USB stick on the table
and
it just picks up I was like, that's cool.
That to me reminds me of Syndrome's Leia in The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Very much so. There is such a correlation between the Pixar animated Brad Bird visual aesthetic and this is not in a critically like derogatory way. This is like the Mission Impossible Pixar film.
Oh,
This
absolutely.
is very much like technologically larger than life. It's kind of a superhero movie.
Yeah.
In some regards with some of the shit that Ethan
they
gets
do.
himself
Yeah,
into.
yeah.
And then you get like the sandstorm stuff, but like the Burj Khalifa scene
Yeah.
and these gloves that go like you have to like roll your hand for it to stick, roll your hand to take it off, and you can climb.
You can
and
climb.
It's pretty much like
It's basically like
blue means glue, and what does red mean? Dead.
It's basically
Okay,
it turns Ethan into Spider-Man.
Oh, it's so fucking cool.
But it turns him into Spider-Man only temporarily because one of the gloves doesn't work.
Malfunctions. And my favorite bit is that he throws it away. He's like, fuck it, it's done.
And then when it comes back.
And then he climbs up higher and the wind has picked it up and glued it onto
But I love that it glues it back and it's green again, and you kind of looks at it, and then it goes boop, 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 and you just go, oh. So then he's one-handing this
and
thing.
he's like winching himself
and
up.
we will say, Tom Cruise was actually on the side of the Burj Khalifa.
Because he is
Like-
a man who has that power.
Like, yes, he obviously there was
it's
look,
harnesses and
there's
ropes
harnesses and stuff, and obviously they CGI that shit out. That
But-
doesn't take away the fact that he's still on the side of the Burj Khalifa,
Now-
one of the tallest buildings in the world.
Brilliant stunt. Fantastic. Exhilarating.
Yeah.
He gets into the server room.
I
It's
said
exhilarating.
I said
as
this
fuck.
thing. I was so, even though I've seen this film and I know that
Multiple times.
and I know that he gets out of it, I was so nervous and on the edge of my seat watching every time he had to jump or do. Oh my god! It's so exhilarating.
It's so good. And then he gets into the server room and he needs to get back down quick. But the gloves aren't working.
They're not working.
And there's a big old rope in there.
And you
so what the fuck does Ethan Hunt do?
Ties it around his waist
And just runs down the building.
and
Another stunt performed by Tom Cruise.
And again, another thing that then plays into, I guess, not camp factor, but like self-awareness and comedy, how he lands and he's like a few windows above where he needs to be. And they're just like, the rope's not long enough. And he's like, no shit.
No shit.
He's like, I'm very aware.
He's like, I'm here.
So then he's like, what am I going to do? Fucking runs to the side and then leaps out.
The acrobatic leap where he's using the rope to
Wing himself
into the building.
To then,
which he, again, did that stunt. Then he ran and leapt off the side of the
then
Burj Khalifa.
unclips himself to basically go, oh, I'll make the jump
Fucking hell.
mid-air into the window, hits the window frame, which makes me just go, oh.
That would hurt.
So he then falls.
Yeah.
Paula Patton and Jeremy Renner both leap for him. Jeremy Renner grabs him. Paula Patton grabs Jeremy Renner. She grabs like the rug.
Yeah.
And you can just hear that slight tear and you're just like, oh, I don't like this
like where
at
this is
all.
going.
Tom, they managed to climb up. They're all good.
They're fine. They're fine.
But we also then go, this room where there is a giant sandstorm coming now has a giant broken window.
Yeah.
Surely someone will fall out of that.
Well, I mean, it
Perhaps-
gets telegraphed.
Perhaps someone will.
Perhaps the revenge-ridden storyline of Paula Patton versus Lea Seydoux will end up in that room.
I love that fight scene.
That fight scene's great.
There's
because
just
then-
something about chick fights that just
and
do
when,
it for
when
me.
they are presented and choreographed and shot and performed with the same brutality.
Yeah.
As every other.
And the thing that I really like is that you can see how, like, Lea Seydoux, like, she has no offense to Lea Seydoux, but she has resting bitch face.
Oh, big time.
She looks like, you look at her and like, I don't
As
want
a villain, it's
to mess
perfect,
with you in any way, shape, or form.
circumstance. Yeah.
And she always like, she's very like poised. And I love the fact that like when it comes down to it, she is slightly a coward because when
Yes.
Paula Patton, who is quite like,
she's built. Yeah.
she's built, and how she's just like, I'm going to go after her.
Yeah.
And she runs at her, and you can see Lea Seydoux like panic, and she goes to get her gun.
Gun out, yeah,
She
yeah.
doesn't go for hand-to-hand combat.
No, because
and
she's- yeah.
eventually they do have hand-to-hand combat.
Which is great.
But you can see that her
Initially.
go-to is shooting.
Yeah.
And Paula Patton's like, nah, bitch.
We're going to fisticuffs this
So they
out.
fisticuff it out, and then, and like, we know that Paula Patton is all about getting revenge.
Yeah.
But she does kill Lea Seydoux, but not like actually
Not
not
intentionally,
intentionally, more so just like
She kicks her
she
towards
kicks her
the
the
window that is
window is not there, and Lea Seydoux falls to her death.
Yes.
And then they're obviously like, well, you've killed the one person we needed.
But while that's happening, the exchange is going on upstairs.
Yeah.
And then an escape and a shootout happens up there too. So
Yeah.
now there's a shootout happening in the hotel.
And then we get Tom Cruise running
We get Tom Cruise running
towards
again,
a sandstorm,
towards a sandstorm.
which everyone else is trying to avoid.
So now we get a chase during a foot chase during a sandstorm, which leads to a car
A
chase
chase in a
during a sandstorm,
sandstorm.
which leads to a car accident. When he's looking at the thing,
Oh, and it's going
beep,
boop,
beep,
boop,
beep,
boop,
beep, beep,
boop,
beep. And it is just phenomenal. And the sandstorm scene is so exhilarating
Yeah.
and exciting, and it's shot so
So
well.
well.
Like the red of that scene is
Yeah.
just fucking perfect. Like this goddamn movie. We should also bring up that Cobalt in this film is a guy named Hendrix,
Yes.
played by Michael Nyquist,
Yeah.
who
Rest in peace.
unfortunately has passed away. I think he had cancer.
Yeah.
But more notably, if you don't know him from this film,
From-
he is the father in John Wick, the father of Theon Greyjoy in John Wick, and
the
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo,
Swedish
the
girl
Swedish
with
version.
dragon tattoo, and he did a terrible movie called Abduction.
oh, with Taylor Lautner.
Yeah, I'll always remember going to that screening and Michael Nyquist saying, "If you do not help me, I'll kill all your friends on Facebook." And everybody in the cinema just giggling because it's like,
shit.
that's not a thing that people say.
Oh shit, that's
Oh,
funny.
Taylor
but he's
Lautner.
great in this.
But he's great in
He's
this.
great in this.
Yeah. Great in this. Underwhelming villain.
I would say,
Mainly just because he's not. There's so much else going on.
yes,
And it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like
yeah.
Hendrix and Cobalt are like almost equal in their positioning, and it feels like we don't really get Cobalt
as a
as a presence until the end.
Until the end when
and
the
by
fight-
that time they're having a fight sequence, so
and
it's
then
like
the movie ends,
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing, right?
So and you're also then you're coming off of Philip Seymour Hoffman.
exactly, it's a tall glass of water.
So this movie feels more. This feels more set on getting the codes,
Yep.
stopping the big bad more so than the big bad
being the threat,
being the
right?
threat.
Yeah. The nuclear codes, the nuclear missiles.
It's probably
are the threat.
It's
Yeah.
probably my only complaint about
about
this
this
film.
film, yeah.
Because otherwise this is pretty.
It's
perfect.
pretty great.
Yeah.
And then after the sandstorm, after the burst cliff in the sandstorm, we get the reveal about who Brant is in connection
Well,
to
because I like that they see Brant fighting.
yes,
And you can
And you're
see
like-
Ethan. You see Ethan briefly like clock him being like,
you're not.
"I'm not being me like
Yeah.
one of those like
You're not just.
we'll talk about this when we get
Yes,
home."
yeah.
That sort of thing where he like notices it. So then he's like, "I want to know how, as an
Hunt-
analyst,
How
where
Hunt
you
confronts
learned
him, right? Yeah,
and how he basically takes Brant's gun. And then Brant just reacts
Yeah.
and pulls it back as well. And then
Yeah.
Paula Patton pulls her gun, and they're just like, "Who
who
are
the
you?"
fuck are you? Yeah,
And that's when he says, "Okay,
I was a field agent.
I was a field agent," and he's like, "The reason I got out of the field was because there was a mission that went wrong for me.
I failed to protect someone.
The mission that I failed to protect this man and his wife. he's like, they found she was basically, you assume that she was like almost like ripped apart the way that they describe it. And he's like, and the husband then killed 6 people, and he then ended up in prison. And they all just go, wait, Ethan was married and Ethan was in prison and Ethan killed people. And he's like, yeah, I failed to stop the murder of Julia. So then now you're like, oh my God, this now brings a whole new meaning to why Ethan was in jail. Yeah. It brings a whole new emotionality to like Ethan and Julia's story. Yeah. Which then changes again
all the dynamics
when we realize what actually happened.
Yes.
But for this moment, you're
Ethan uses that as fuel to be like, we need to focus on the mission.
Yeah.
We're going to utilize you now.
Yes.
We need to focus on the mission. So they go to this party. Oh, it's like this dinner ultimately in San Francisco. This like ball thing, right? Yeah.
Is it in San Francisco at that point? I think it's still
they're firing
in
the missile at San Francisco.
This is still in Nepal, isn't it?
Oh, it's in India, Mumbai.
Yeah, Mumbai. Because the guy is this very like he's
the Bollywood actor, of course. Yeah.
And this is where they're like, we'll utilize Paula Patton, and all of her feminine wiles.
And
this is the great sequence where they're like, all right, we'll utilize Jeremy Renner, and Simon and Benji is just so happy to like be able to like control him. And how he's like, we'll put you in this super suit which reacts to magnets.
Yes.
And basically you're going to jump through a fan.
Yeah.
And I'll to the supercomputer, and I'll have this little robot that'll react to your magnets, and I'll drive the robot, and you'll float through the sky, and basically you'll float because it's so hot in the supercomputer.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, so I just jump onto a fan? He's like, yeah, pretty much. And I'll catch you. And he keeps being like,
sassy little Benji.
But he keeps being like, so I'm just jumping into an oven. Yeah. And I'll catch you.
I love Benji.
And I do love that. And that's when you also see like Brandt being like, psyching himself up for it, being like, just do it. And you don't know if like the jump's really going to work.
No, that's the best part.
And then he jumps and he's inches away from the fan.
This rotating fan.
And he's like, see, I caught you. And he's like, did you jump? And he's like, should I not have jumped? It's so good.
It's great
that sequence, that whole sequence, because it's also Paula Patton like not realizing if she should be like feminine and like shy, or her aggressiveness actually turns the Bollywood guy on.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of a bit of like, it's a bit farcical.
Very much so.
And it brings me back to like the TV show.
Big
like
time.
It's showing you like, we're going to do all of these crazy stunts and we're going to have this emotionality. We're also going to have some fun.
We're going to have a bit of fun.
And this film and this scene sort of brings you back.
It's just the series wearing its self-awareness.
Yeah, because the Bollywood actor is very like, he's very over the top.
Very over the top, but it kind of works because that's like in a Bollywood sense as well, right?
Yeah.
So, but ultimately it's, they need they're trying to stop the launch, but the missile does get launched. So now it becomes about deactivating a nuclear missile while it's flying in the air.
Yeah.
Which means he's got to get these codes from Cobalt.
Yeah.
Or he's got to get the computer, with the deactivation from Cobalt.
And now running through this very high-tech car park?
It's a car park, but it's like a digital...
Where it's like the car comes to you on a land. It's so wild. But you know what? It's Seattle.
Yeah.
And I was like, having been in San Francisco and like cars that drive by themselves, it wouldn't surprise me if something like this existed.
And then, but it leads to these awesome things where like the movements of the platforms and stuff makes the fight harder. But like we get some cool Ethan moments, like where he gets punched and falls off, but then he's like holding on the bottom and he kicks him again. But we get like the most insane two-punch aspect of where Cobalt's like, well, my mission's done. And
my mission's done. And he's like, and if you capture me, I'm gonna go to prison, and like I don't want that.
So I may as well just like
kill myself.
So he fucking launches himself,
like holds the suitcase and just jumps
and smiles when he does it.
It's like, that's creepy.
Hits the car on the way down, goes down.
And it's like, and I was like, that makes me just go, oh, there was a really interesting villain here.
Very much so, yes.
They just don't
but
utilize.
they didn't explore that complexity of him.
Yeah, because if he's that much of a madman to be like, I'm just going to kill myself.
What would he have done earlier on that we could have seen, right?
Yeah.
So then we get Ethan go like, well, the fastest way's down.
Yeah. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm surrounded by cars, so what am I going to do? I'll just drive a car straight down.
Bang, hits in, gets within seconds of the missile hitting a building in San Francisco.
And I love
deactivate.
But I love that he's like, and like I do appreciate. So when he first says it, it's like, oh, this is cheesy.
Yeah.
But I do like they acknowledge it. How Tom Cruise goes, mission accomplished, and hits the button, and it doesn't work because it's not quite connected yet.
Yeah,
hits it again. Thankfully, it doesn't. And then at the end, we hear Ving Rhames, Luther going, "You actually said mission accomplished."
So then we do see Luther at the end. They're having a drink together. I love that.
How he's like, you said it, and he's like, oh, I can still see you cheesy as ever. And I was like, okay, the series is aware.
It's aware, and that's why it's fun.
Yeah.
And then Ethan goes to this team, which is Paula Patton, Simon Pegg, Jeremy Renner. Luther has gone now, and he goes 3 phones.
He's like, say if you want, like,
I'll call you. There'll be a mission.
If you want in, you know.
Paula says yes. Simon says yes. Jeremy says no.
Yes.
And he goes, Brant, I think you should be on this team.
And he's like,
pretty much like, I let your wife die. I can't do this. And in classic Ethan fashion, he goes, I orchestrated the whole thing. I needed to fake her death and convincingly put myself in prison to give her a new identity so she could live her life. That's how much Ethan loves Julia, is that he gave her a new life.
And as he's saying this, we then get cutaway shots to a couple.
A couple on a ferry.
And you're like, why are we cutting away? And then you realize we're looking at Julia walking with a colleague.
Not only are we looking at Julia, we're looking at Ethan looking at Julia lovingly.
Then
it's beautiful.
So then she's like none the wiser, walking away. And as she goes to open a door, just like looks around, and from her point of view, we see how far away Tom Cruise is, but far away enough that you can still make out what they're doing.
Well, that's
And there's just this the smile that she gives him.
Yeah.
You just go, oh man, you guys really love each other.
They were in love. They were so in love.
And you can see that she doesn't harbor any like resentment or anger. Like she's like she just looks at him like I'm so happy to see you, and also just like, oh, you really are gonna watch over me.
Yes, and also for her, it's like a happy he's still alive.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, because you imagine she would be like, I don't know when you're gonna live.
Yeah. Or also, are you ever gonna get out of this fucking Russian prison?
And then he just like and then he just looks at her and it's like that not acknowledgement of like, I got you, kid.
I've got you.
Yeah. And she waves and then just does like the final. It's smart.
So and then he walks off into the smoke.
And then we hear the
music,
and we hear like your next mission should. It's just like
so good. Oh, and we get the tease. There is a group
called the Syndicate.
And as the film Ghost Protocol leaves us there, we shall leave the monthly movie marathon there for now.
But I'll also say that obviously after Ghost Protocol, because we'll say Ghost Protocol made a lot of money.
Let's have a look. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
$145 million budget, $694.7 million at the box office. This was a bona fide hit.
So when that movie is 94% critically acclaimed.
Yep.
And makes over $600 million.
Yep.
We're like, we're getting another one.
It was a no-brainer.
But I do like that pretty much every single Mission Impossible film ends on a way that if we didn't get another one, we're okay.
The story
as much as they tease the Syndicate, if we didn't get a sequel, you kind of just go, we imagine they'd stop the Syndicate.
Exactly.
Like, I'm obviously very grateful we got a sequel.
I'm very grateful we got this next string of three.
I'm very grateful Christopher McQuarrie was like,
I've got some ideas.
Yeah, basically he's like, hold my beer.
I'll show you how it's done.
Yeah.
But that is part one.
Part one
of our Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning recap.
At this point, what what is your ranking of these 4 films?
3, 4, 1, 2.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have such a love for 3.
Yeah.
It's hard not to. But shit, man, like 4's brilliant.
That's what I'm saying. 4 is brilliant to me.
1 is really great.
The villain brings 4 down.
yes, yeah.
So
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
the same
I
as
agree.
you. 3, 4, 1, 2.
Yep.
Because 3, Philip Seymour Hoffman's incredible, but like just that is just like an impeccably made film.
Big. Yeah.
Ghost Protocol is like
100%.
action perfection.
Yep.
It just needed a better villain.
Agreed. Yeah.
Number 1 is like incredible way to start the franchise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 2 isn't awful.
No, it's just
the
worst
It's
in
just
the
it's just
franchise.
it's just an average action
and it's just
film.
a different one.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at the moment.
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, are some bangers coming up as we enter the Christopher McQuarrie era. The only man who's directed multiple Mission Impossible films. The McQuarrie. Because the movies get bigger, the stunts get bigger, and the arms of people who are in these films get bigger.
We will say at the end of next episode, are we gonna like signal? Are we gonna
we'll do like a
single out like sequences as well?
sure.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Because guess what? We can do whatever the
Fuck we want.
As that will be the final episode of the monthly movie marathon.
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, monthly movie marathon, the final episode.
The final episode. And that episode, you will be hearing it tomorrow. We're dropping these episodes back to back. So you don't have to wait that long for the final episode. We just need a time to record.
We won't have seen it by then.
We won't have seen Mission Impossible.
God,
So
it would be great to talk about it.
Actually, funnily enough, I think
it's too late.
No. We would be just some inside baseball for everyone. We are seeing the final reckoning the day the next episode comes out. So the final episode of the monthly movie marathon comes out. We will have seen
it, but we
won't be seeing
record it
before then.
Yeah.
Based on its release date and schedule.
Yeah.
So we won't be able to tell you anything about the new one, but that's completely fine.
But that's also why
Come on
you
the
follow
journey
us
with
on
us.
socials for all of our reviews.
Which socials would they find you at, do you reckon?
Thanks for asking me.
That's all right. Anytime.
You can find me on Instagram and X at RatedPDG and Letterboxd. Peter Gray at RatedPDG, I think.
Yeah.
And the AUreview.com and Rotten Tomatoes. That is where you can find me and all of my musings. And where can they find you? LaBarrow.
Instagram, X, Letterboxd, at nicksflicksfix, and novastream.com.au for all reviews, interviews, and other fun bits of shoes and who's. Yeah, but the mission that we accepted must continue on.
It must continue on
for the next one.
Yeah.
And until then, I was trying to think of a way we could get by into Mission Impossible, but
you could just go like dun 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 dun. Bye.
Bye. Bye.